Alarm. The left side engine is overloaded with 70% of the energy circuits burned out. Harsh electronic synthesized voices echoed in the corroded bridge. Lin Che slammed his hand on the console. On the cracked screen, the red indicator for engine status flickered madly, as if mocking how outdated this warship was. This was the Rust Falcon, a piece of junk decommissioned by the Federal Stellar Fleet 30 years ago, now his only reliance as a scavenger in this fringe star region. Shut up, old buddy. Lin Che tugged at his grease-stained coveralls and quickly slid his fingertips over the oxidized control stick. Just hold on for 3 more minutes. Once we deliver that box of plutonium crystals back to Blackrock Station, we can get a new cooling system. The hull suddenly shook violently as if gripped by an invisible giant hand. Lin Che stumbled and steadied himself against the console. Outside the porthole, 3 pirate ships painted with skull insignias were surrounding him in a triangular formation, while pale purple particle beams carved deadly trajectories through the darkness. Damn, it's those scum of the Bone Claw gang. Lin Che gritted his teeth and slammed his left hand onto the red emergency button. The armor plates on the side of the Rust Falcon creaked open, and 2 old-fashioned magnetic railguns slowly raised rust flakes falling from the barrels. These were weapons he had spent 3 months repairing with just enough power to punch through a civilian ship's shield. Against professional pirate ships, they were nothing more than a tickle. Kid, hand over the plutonium crystals, and he'll let you live. A rough cackle came through the pirate ship's public channel. Or he'll tear you apart and feed your pieces to the space slugs. Lin Che had no time for nonsense. His gaze fell on an inconspicuous groove beneath the console. There lay a palm-sized metal plate covered with intricate spiral patterns. He had found it by chance the previous week in an underground ruin on an abandoned colony planet. Scans showed it was neither a power source nor an alloy, just a seemingly useless piece of scrap. But as the pirate ship's particle beams grew closer, the metal plate suddenly emitted a faint blue glow, and a tiny electric current traveled along Lin Che's fingertip into his nerves. Warning. Unknown power source detected connecting to main system. The electronic warning stopped abruptly, and the entire console was instantly bathed in blue light. Lin Che stared in astonishment as the previously chaotic data streams on the screen suddenly became orderly, the red fault indicators extinguishing visibly, replaced by rows of never-before-seen green code. This is... Before he could react, the Rust Falcon lurched forward, its speed tripling what it normally was, narrowly dodging the particle beams. What shocked him even more was that the 2 magnetic railguns automatically adjusted their angles, and the muzzles condensed a light 100 times brighter than normal. Locking target. Power output at 300%. A cool female voice echoed through the bridge, not from the Rust Falcon's old system, but from the metal plate. Lin Che's pupils contracted as he saw 3 red squares appear on the screen, precisely locking onto the 3 pirate ships. Before he could give a command, the magnetic railguns roared and shot 2 beams of light. Boom, boom. 2 loud explosions echoed through space. The shields of the leading 2 pirate ships shattered like paper, and their hulls were instantly torn into countless pieces. The captain of the last pirate ship was terrified out of his wits, turning the ship to flee. But the Rust Falcon was faster, the blue glowing vessel chased like a ghost, and the magnetic rail gun fired again, spewing deadly light. 3 seconds later, space fell silent, leaving only floating debris and the low hum of the Rust Falcon's engines. Lin Che slumped into his seat, his heart racing uncontrollably. He looked down at the metal plate in his palm. The blue glow had faded, returning it to that ordinary-looking piece of metal, but he could clearly feel that something had changed. "Who are you?" he asked tentatively. The metal plate vibrated slightly, and the cool female voice sounded again. "The highest technological crystallization of the Federal Stellar Fleet, the Spark Intelligent Core, serial number 9527. Compatible host." Lin Che detected. Initiating binding procedure. Binding successful. Lin Che was stunned. The Spark Intelligent Core. He had seen records about it in the Federation's historical archives. A century ago, the Federation had developed it as an ultimate weapon to combat the insect horde. Legend said it could grant a civilian cargo ship combat power comparable to a main battleship. But due to enormous energy consumption, the project was ultimately sealed and all data classified as top secret. "You're the legendary Spark. To be precise, the prototype of the Spark project." The Intelligent Core's voice was completely flat. 100 years ago, during the battle against the insect hive, the starship I was aboard was destroyed, and the core module drifted into the fringe star region until you activated it. Lin Che took a deep breath, suppressing the shock within him. He looked at the console. The previously cracked screen was now crystal clear, displaying various parameters of the Rust Falcon engine: power increased by 200%, shield strength increased by 300%, and even the weapon system had 3 never-before-seen options. "So with you, this scrap ship can be modified into a basic combat ship within 30 minutes. The Intelligent Core gave the answer directly. "If sufficient resources are provided, it can be progressively upgraded to a star-level battleship." Lin Che's eyes lit up. He had grown up in the Fringe Star region, witnessed the arrogance of the Federation fleet and the rampant piracy, and dreamed countless times of owning a real warship to break out of this forgotten corner. Now the opportunity was right in front of him. Resources is it. He stood up and looked out at the deep starry sky through the porthole, where there were countless derelict starship graveyards, unexplored resource planets, and ancient ruins hiding secrets. Cancel the plutonium crystal deal at Blackrock Station. Lin Che clenched his fist, a hint of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes. We're going to the Ghost Channel. There's a crashed Federation cruiser there rumored to still have plenty of good stuff on it. The intelligent core was silent for a moment, as if calculating feasibility. The Ghost Channel has high concentration cosmic storms and signs of unknown biological activity. Danger level B. However, according to scans, the target cruiser wreck contains 70% of the materials needed for the initial upgrade. Feasible. Then let's go. Lin Che pushed down the control stick hard. Lin Che shoved the control stick forward. The Rust Falcon let out a low, unprecedented roar like a beast awakening and jumped toward the dangerous area marked on the star map. In the bridge, Lin Che watched the data refreshing on the screen, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. He knew that from today on the Fringe Star region would no longer be peaceful, and his name Lin Che would one day resound across the entire galaxy. In a place he couldn't see, the metal plate in his palm flickered with an imperceptible blue light again, like a spark that had slumbered for a century, finally finding a kindling to ignite a prairie fire. The hum of the warp drive gradually subsided as the Shio Sun Hao emerged from the distorted space, and the sight before him made Lin Che gasp. The so-called Ghost Passage was a star region that had been abandoned for nearly half a century. The dark purple cosmic storm raged like a furious beast, tearing through the starry void, and every energy eddy was enough to rip through the armor of ordinary ships. Further away, countless broken starship wrecks floated like tombstones, their rusted hulls still bearing the scorch marks of explosions, silently telling the story of the fierce battles that had once taken place here. Target signal detected, located 7.3 light-years ahead, coordinates locked. The voice of Huazhong sounded on the bridge, and on the screen appeared a three-dimensional projection of a cruiser, the hull length exceeding 800 meters, though broken in two. The iconic diamond-shaped bow and the federal military emblem were still clearly discernible. A Federal Guardian-class cruiser, one of the main ships during the Zerg War. A glint of excitement flashed in Lin Che's eyes. Even as wreckage, the alloy armor and weapon components of a ship of this class were enough to complete the preliminary modifications of the Shio Sun Hao. Can we get close without the storm? Analyzing storm trajectory. A stable passage has been found 300 meters wide, duration estimated at 17 minutes. Huazhong's data stream scrolled rapidly on the screen. It is recommended to activate shields at maximum power and proceed along the designated course. Lin Che did not hesitate for a moment, shoving the throttle to the maximum. Huazhong's data stream scrolled rapidly on the screen. It is recommended to activate shields at maximum power and proceed along the designated course. Lin Che did not hesitate for a moment, shoving the throttle to the maximum. The engines of the Shio Sun Hao spewed dazzling blue flames, darting like a nimble fish into the raging. The hull was instantly enveloped in violent vibrations. The view outside the porthole turned into a twisted, grotesque kaleidoscope, and energy eddies continuously battered the shields, stirring up ripples. The console alarms blared one after another, but under Huazhong's control, all parameters stabilized within safe limits. Port shield energy decreased by 12 minor wear on outer armor. Energy distribution adjusted, prioritizing port shield replenishment. Lin Che gripped the controls tightly, his eyes fixed on the navigation map. 17 minutes felt as long as 17 centuries. When the Shio Sun Hao finally burst out of the storm and came to a steady stop beside the wreckage of the Guardian-class cruiser, Lin Che found his back soaked with cold sweat. Initiating docking. Lin Che wiped his face and pressed the docking button. The front of the Shio Sun Hao extended 3 alloy anchor chains, precisely piercing into the cruiser's wreckage, firmly connecting the two ships. Life scan. No life signals detected. Huazhong's voice sounded again. But a faint energy reaction has been detected, located in the weapon bay area of the wreckage. Energy reaction. Lin Che raised an eyebrow, grabbed a magnetic rifle and an emergency light. I'll go check it out. You stay on the bridge and keep alert. Donning a simple space suit, Lin Che entered the wreckage of the Guardian-class cruiser through the docking passage. As soon as he stepped inside, a pungent smell mixed with metal rust and ozone hit him. The beam of the emergency light swept across the scene, revealing broken pipes, twisted metal brackets, and dark brown stains everywhere. Dried blood. A bloody battle took place here. Lin Che muttered softly, carefully stepping over obstacles on the floor, advancing toward the weapon bay. The gravity system inside the cruiser had long failed, so he could only rely on the magnetic boots on his suit to walk on the vertical bulkheads. The scenes along the way grew increasingly grisly. Some cabins had huge holes blasted by energy weapons, some still bore the unique acidic corrosion marks of the Zerg, and there were even half-munched, unrecognizable skeletons of soldiers. Lin Shaye suppressed his discomfort and quickened his pace. About half an hour later he arrived at the weapon bay door. The heavy alloy door had been blown open from the inside, revealing a pitch-black passage beyond. Huazhong, can you scan the interior? Signal interference is severe. I can only confirm that the energy source is deep inside the weapon bay. Specific identification is impossible. Lin Shaye raised his magnetic rifle, turned on the tactical light, and slowly entered the weapon bay. This area originally housed the cruiser's main gun components and ammunition, but now most of it was empty, with only a few damaged ammunition boxes and a pile of twisted mechanical parts remaining. In the deepest part of the weapon bay, a pale golden energy sphere hovered in midair, pulsating slowly. Fragments of metal around it were attracted and formed a peculiar energy field around the sphere. This is... Lin Shaye's pupils contracted. He had never seen an energy body in this form. The Federation's energy cores were all stable solids or liquids. Something gaseous and self-levitating like this was unheard of. Just as he approached the sphere, it suddenly fluctuated violently, and a beam of golden energy shot straight toward the center of his brow. Watch out. Huazhong's warning sounded in the communicator. Lin Shaye instinctively dodged sideways, but the beam was too fast. It still grazed his forehead. A sharp pain struck him, and his vision went blank, as if a torrent of information was forcibly flooding his brain. Starship designs, weapon parameters, warp routes, and even some blurry battle images. After an unknown time, Lin Shaye came to from the pain. He pressed his forehead and found a pale golden spiral mark there, identical to the Huazhong core pattern on his palm. The golden sphere had now shrunk, slightly hovering quietly in front of him, no longer aggressive. What on earth is this? Lin Shaye asked, panting heavily. Through the communicator came Huazhong's voice, tinged with shock. Detected homologous energy fluctuation. This is the auxiliary core of the Huazhong project, responsible for storing all technical data and battle records of the Federation starships. The main core and auxiliary core separated during the campaign. EY never expected to encounter it here. Lin Shaye was stunned. An auxiliary core. In other words, with this thing, he could not only modify the Xiao Hao, but also master the technology of all Federation warships. At that moment, the auxiliary core turned into a stream of light, merging into the mark on his forehead. Instantaneously, countless information surged into his mind like a tidal wave. From the most basic energy circuit designs to the main gun principles of Stellar-class warships, and even the most classified warp route maps of the Federation. Lin Shaye closed his eyes and spent a full 10 minutes digesting all this information. When he opened his eyes again, they were filled with unprecedented confidence. Not a bad haul. A smile curled at the corner of his mouth as he began searching for usable parts in the weapon bay. With the data from the auxiliary core, he recognized at a glance several intact pulse cannon barrels and energy converters in the corner. These are enough to upgrade the Xiao Hao's weapon system to military grade. Lin Shaye nodded with satisfaction and began disassembling the components with the cutting tools he had brought. Just as he was busy, a rapid voice from Huazhong suddenly came through the communicator. Alert. Multiple unidentified ships detected approaching at high speed, targets heading straight for us. Lin Shaye's heart tensed. Pirates or a federal patrol? Neither. Huazhong's voice was heavy with solemnity. It's the fleet of the Interstellar Scavenger Alliance, the greediest predators in this star sector, even more troublesome than pirates. Lin Shaye abruptly looked out the porthole where more than a dozen ships in gray camouflage were breaking through the cosmic storm, heading toward the Guardian-class wreck. Leading them was a destroyer over 500 meters long, its bow cannon already charging, emitting a dangerous glow. They must have been attracted by the signal from the cruiser wreckage. Lin Shaye's eyes turned cold as he quickly packed the disassembled parts. Huazhong, prepare to retreat. They have locked onto us. The retreat route is blocked. Huazhong's voice was urgent. Their firepower is more than 5 times ours. The chance of winning in a direct confrontation is less than 10. Huazhong's voice was urgent. Their firepower is more than 5 times ours. The chance of winning in a direct confrontation is less than 10. Lin Shaye's gaze fell on the packaged pulse cannon barrels, then checked the mark on his forehead. A fierce glint flashed in his eyes. Who said we have to fight Hedon? Bring up the Xiao Hao's weapon system parameters and the design schematics for the ion interference bomb from the auxiliary core. Ion interference bomb. That's a federal military weapon. Can we build it with our current equipment? With these pulse cannon energy converters and the data from the auxiliary core, it's more than enough. Lin Shaye said in a deep voice as he quickly returned to the Xiao Hao. Give me 10 minutes. I'll make these scavengers realize that not everything is theirs to touch. By the time Lin Shaye returned to the Xiao Hao's maintenance bay with the components, the Scavenger Alliance fleet had already closed to within 3 light years, and the lead destroyer's main gun was glowing with a blinding light. A fierce battle was about to erupt, and Lin Shaye knew that this time he was no longer just a scavenger surviving on abandoned wreckage. Boom. The first plasma shell grazed the hull of the Rust Falcon, detonating into a blinding flare in the void. The shockwave rattled the entire warship, sending components in the maintenance bay clattering to the floor. Lin Shay barely steadied himself, tore off his helmet, grabbed a wrench, and lunged toward the makeshift workbench. On the bench lay the disassembled pulse cannon energy converter. Beside it, the auxiliary core rapidly refreshed the design parameters of an ion jamming shell, a tactical weapon capable of instantly paralyzing enemy electronic systems. It was classified as a Level 2 forbidden weapon in Federation military regulations, devastating in power, but requiring extreme stability from the launcher. 8 minutes left. Hua Zhong's voice crackled with static. The electromagnetic interference was taking effect. The second destroyer has entered range and is locking onto the engine bay. Sweat beaded on Lin Chi's forehead, not from fear, but from intense concentration. His fingers danced among the parts, leveraging the knowledge implanted by the auxiliary core to precisely adjust the resonant frequency of the energy converter. What would normally require precision machinery was now accomplished with just a wrench and his instinct. The complex parameters seemed to flow like an innate skill in his blood. Port shield breached. Cooling pipe no. Free ruptured. Engine temperature at critical. Route all power to the starboard engine. Maintain course stability. Lin Shay didn't look up. He slammed a superconducting cable onto the converter connector, sparks scorching black holes into his jumpsuit. On the screen, the Scavenger Alliance fleet had encircled them. At the bridge of the lead destroyer armor breaker, the one-eyed captain, Lei Ming, grinned savagely at the tactical display. That piece of junk still struggling. Pour on the firepower. Blast its engines to scrap. Let's see what treasures it's hiding. His first mate chuckled obsequiously. Wise call, Captain. Nothing valuable around here except that downed Guardian-class wreck. Maybe the kid snagged something good from the cruiser. We're about to strike it rich. Lei Ming licked his cracked lips, greed glittering in his eye. The Scavenger Alliance was more dangerous than pirates because they didn't just loot. They dismantled ships down to. Just then the Rust Falcon executed an uncanny maneuver. Instead of accelerating away, it lurched hard to port, narrowly dodging 3 simultaneous plasma blasts. What the? Lei Ming frowned. The junker had the agility of a modified military speedboat, not an old civilian vessel. 3 minutes left. Lin Chi's voice was hoarse. He had linked the energy converter to the railgun and was in the final charging phase. The energy bar on the screen climbed visibly, while red warning lights flashed frantically, indicating the weapon system was on the verge of overload. Their flagship has locked onto our weapon bay. Hua Zhong's voice pitched suddenly. Lin Shay slammed the last button. Done. Hua Zhong, target armor breakers, main console. Fire. The Rust Falcon's railgun let out a dull roar. There was no glaring flash, only a fist-sized black warhead with a faint blue tail streaking toward the armor breaker at sublight speed. Hell, what's that? A toy gun. The first mate snickered as the trajectory appeared on screen. But Lei Ming felt a jolt of alarm. The warhead's flight path was unnaturally stable, unlike ordinary shells. He moved to order the energy shield engaged, but it was too late. The black warhead struck the armor breaker's bridge armor precisely. It didn't explode. It burrowed inward like a drop of water merging into the sea. The next second, blinding white light flooded the bridge. Every screen went black and acrid smoke billowed from the consoles. What's happening? Lei Ming found himself paralyzed. His communicator screeched with static. The entire bridge's electronic systems had shut down. Report. Main console unresponsive. Engines dead. Weapon systems locked. Hysterical shouts came over the emergency channel. The ion jamming shell had worked. Lin Shay watched the armor breaker turn into a hunk of floating scrap, a cold smirk curling his lips. He didn't linger. Hua Zhong coordinates abandoned minefield near Blackrock Station. Max power jump. The Rust Falcon's engines roared again. Seizing the moment of chaos as the Scavenger fleet lost their flagship, it plunged into the jump tunnel. The armor breaker's backup console finally came online. Lei Ming shoved aside the smoking panel and bellowed at the fading image of the Rust Falcon. After it. Chase them. They'll tear that boy apart. But the jump tunnel had already closed. Only a few disoriented Scavenger ships drifted aimlessly inside the jump tunnel. Lin Shay collapsed onto the floor of the maintenance bay, drenched in sweat. The 10-minute ordeal had drained him completely. Yet staring at the pulse cannon parts piled in the corner and the starship data continuously updating in his mind, his eyes reignited with fire. Detected decline in host vital signs. Recommend nutritional supplement and rest. Hua Zhong's voice softened slightly. Also, among the components retrieved from the Guardian-class wreck, I found a piece of star crystal alloy. It can be used to reinforce the hull. Hardness 10 times that of standard alloy. Lin Shay perked up. Star crystal alloy. That was top-tier material used only on Federation capital ships. Finding it in an abandoned cruiser was a stroke of luck. There's more. Hua Zhong paused, his tone odd. The auxiliary core's database contains a design sketch for a dark matter engine. Incomplete, but combined with my main core database, perhaps I can. Dark matter engine. Lin Shay sprang to his feet. That term appeared only in the highest Federation classified files. A theoretical engine capable of faster than light jumps, 5 times faster than current jump technology. It had been permanently sealed due to the extreme difficulty of energy control. If we can build a dark matter engine, we can shake off all pursuers, even cross the Federation blockade into the core star systems. Lin Chi's breathing quickened. The frontier sectors offered freedom, but scarce resources. Only in the core could he gather enough materials to truly transform the Rust Falcon. The jump ended. The Rust Falcon emerged in an abandoned asteroid field near Blackrock Station. Its complex gravitational fields shielded all scan signals, the safest hideout in the area. Lin Chi immediately began modifying the ship. With the auxiliary core's data and the recovered parts, the process went smoothly. First, he melted down the star crystal alloy and forged new armor plates to cover the Rust Falcon's key sections. The once rusty hull now gleamed with a dark gold luster, its defense vastly improved. Next, he mounted the pulse cannon barrel onto the railgun base. Combined with the modified energy converter, the new pulse railgun boasted 5 times the power and an effective range of 10 light-years. Finally, he delved into the dark matter engine sketch. Though most parameters were missing, Huazhong's main core could extrapolate based on existing data. New calculation formulas and 3D models flashed across the screen. Just then, a faint distress signal crackled through the communicator, intermittent and laced with interference. A distress call. Lin Chi frowned. The abandoned minefield rarely saw visitors. Source is 2 light-years away. A civilian transport registered to Dawn Trade Company. Huazhong analyzed quickly. Detected battle noise in the signal, appears to be under pursuit. Lin Chi looked at the star chart. That location was near the Black Rock Station route usually patrolled by Federation ships. Pirates rarely dared to strike there. Can you identify the pursuers? Signal interference too strong to identify, but based on energy readings, at least 5 ships firepower comparable to the earlier Scavenger Alliance. Lin Chi pondered. He wasn't a saint. Having lived in the frontier, had seen enough predators and prey. There was no need to risk his neck for a stranger. Yet the intermittent distress signal seemed to carry a familiar voice, stirring unease in his heart. Let's check it out. He finally decided. Stay concealed. Assess the situation first. The Rust Falcon glided out of the asteroid field, heading toward the signal source. Its dark gold hull weaved through the shadows of asteroids like a lurking predator ready for a new challenge. Lin Chi stood on the bridge watching the approaching signal source through the viewport, his fists clenched. He had a premonition that this intervention might drag him into an even greater vortex. The Rust Falcon slid into the edge of the asteroid belt like a ghost. Lin Chi dimmed the ship's external identification lights, leaving only a faint energy beam to maintain scanning. 3 light-years ahead, several chaotic energy reactions were violently colliding, the source of the distress signal hidden there. Magnify the view, Lin Chi said in a low voice. The image on the screen gradually became clear. A silver-gray civilian transport ship was being besieged by 5 black warships, the Dawn Trade logo on its hull blackened by cannon fire. The transport ship's shields flickered unsteadily, clearly on the verge of collapse. Each hit sent the hull trembling violently, as if it would disintegrate in the next second. The attacking black warships had ferocious designs, their bows covered with barb-like protrusions. The muzzles did not emit common plasma beams, but dark red corrosive light beams that upon striking the transport's shields instantly corroded into ripples. It's the bone-eroding pirates. Lin Chi's gaze turned cold. These scum specialize in corrosive weapons. It said their shells are mixed with Zerg acid extract. Ships hit by them, even if they don't explode, will slowly corrode into scrap. What shocked him more was that the combat power of the bone-eroding pirates far exceeded the Bone Claw gang he had encountered before. The 5 warships coordinated perfectly, forming a goose-wing formation to continuously compress the transport ship's maneuvering space, clearly intending to wear the enemy down to death. The distress signal continues, but its energy is getting weaker, Spark's voice came with analysis. The transport's engines are damaged, at most it can hold out for 5 minutes. Lin Chi's gaze fell on the transport's cockpit. Though the window was cracked, he could faintly see a familiar figure. A high ponytail white uniform frantically operating the console, even amidst the gunfire. It's Su Qing. Lin Chi's heart clenched. Su Qing was one of the few legitimate merchants at Black Rock Station, specializing in starship parts trading. She was upright. Last year, when Lin Chi's Rust Falcon's engine was scrapped, she secretly sold him a second-hand engine at a low price, helping him survive the toughest time. Bastards. Lin Chi's eyes flared with fury. Spark, calculate the best attack route. Their formation is tight. Our firepower can only destroy 1 warship. If we charge in. No need to charge in. Lin Chi interrupted, his fingers sliding quickly over the console, calling up the signal jammer he had specially installed during the modification. Remember the Scavenger Alliance's tricks. What they fear most is not a direct fight, but unknown danger. A cold smirk curled on his lips as he quickly entered a series of commands. Simulate the energy signatures of 3 Federation patrol ships. Tune the frequency to the encrypted band. Transmit from the left rear asteroid shadow. Vary the intensity to create the illusion of an outflanking maneuver. Understood. Spark immediately executed the command. A few seconds later, alarms blared in the flagship bridge of the bone-eroding pirates. Report. Detected unknown energy signals. Frequency suspected to be from Federation's 7th Fleet patrol ships. At least 3 vessels forming an encirclement to the left rear. The pirate leader, Scarface, slammed the console, his rugged face full of shock and doubt. Federation patrol ships. Why would they come here? The Federation patrol at Black Rock Station usually only operated within the station and rarely ventured into the asteroid belt. The sudden signal made his heart skip a beat. Boss, could it be a trap? The adjutant beside him asked cautiously. We came here without Federation knowledge. If we get entangled, we'll be in big trouble. Scarface stared at the fluctuating signal on the screen, then glanced at the nearly destroyed transport ship, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Though the bone-eroding pirates were ferocious, they were nothing compared to the Federation's regular forces. At that moment, Lin Shay maneuvered the Rust Falcon, darting out from the right side asteroid shadow like a hidden arrow. The pulse railgun instantly locked onto the pirate warship closest to the transport. Boom! A dark golden beam shot through space, precisely hitting the warship's engine bay. There was no spectacular explosion, only a dull roar. The warship's engines died instantly, and the powerless hull, like a kite with broken strings, crashed into a nearby asteroid, sending up a cloud of debris. Who's there? Scarface was both shocked and angry. Federation's 7th Fleet on mission to eliminate. Lin Shay hailed through the public channel, his voice processed with a cold mechanical tone. Bone-eroding pirates, lay down your weapons and surrender immediately, or you will be killed without mercy. At the same time, he had Spark boost the signal strength of the Federation patrol ships to maximum, even simulating the fluctuations of main cannon charging. Scarface was completely panicked. A mysterious warship hidden in the shadows plus 3 Federation patrol ships of unknown authenticity. Continuing to fight would be suicide. He glanced at the teetering transport ship, gritted his teeth, and said, retreat. The 5 pirate warships immediately turned and fled into the depths of the asteroid belt like stray dogs, leaving their crippled comrade behind. Only after the pirate ship's signals completely disappeared from the scan range did Lin Shay let out a breath, fine beads of sweat forming on his forehead. That empty city strategy, if there had been the slightest flaw, it would have been seen through. Luckily, the bone-eroding pirates had guilty consciences. Rust Falcon. A surprised and weak voice came through the communication channel. Lin Shay, is that you? Lin Shay switched to the private channel, his tone softening. It's me, Sister Sue. How are you? I'm fine, thanks to you. Su Qing's voice carried the relief of survival. The transport's shields and engines are broken. Can you? They'll tow you back to Black Rock Station. Lin Shay said, directly maneuvering the Rust Falcon close to the transport and extending a tractor beam. Are there any others with you? Any injuries? Just me. I lost a lot of cargo, but I'm fine. Su Qing paused, her tone turning serious. Lin Shay, they weren't after the cargo this time. They were after me. Lin Shi's heart stirred. What do you mean? I hid something in the transport's cargo hold. Su Qing's voice lowered. I found it on a crashed Federation research ship. The bone-eroding pirates seem to be colluding with some faction, and they've been looking for this thing. Just then Spark suddenly issued an alarm. Warning. Detected a strong energy reaction inside the transport's cargo hold, homologous to the auxiliary core found in the Guardian-class wreckage, but with more stable oscillation frequency. Suspected. Spark paused as if processing complex data. Lin Shi's heart skipped a beat. Suspected what? Suspected to be the energy core drive module of the Spark project. Spark's voice carried unprecedented gravity. If my deduction is correct, this module can multiply the main core's energy output tenfold. It's the key component to activating the dark matter engine. Lin Shay sharply turned his gaze to the transport's cargo hold on the screen, shock flashing in his eyes. He had never imagined Su Qing was hiding something so important. Sister Su, the thing you hid, is it a silver metal cube with blue energy patterns on its surface? Lin Shay asked. Silence on the channel for a few seconds, then Su Qing's surprised voice. How do you know? That thing, is it important? It's not just important. Lin Shay took a deep breath. It's something that can change the entire frontier sector's landscape. Sister Su, do you trust me? I trust you. Su Qing didn't hesitate at all. Back at Black Rock Station, everyone bullied you for being an orphan, but you alone warned me about the fire prevention system flaw in the warehouse and saved my life. Tell me, what do you need me to do? A warm current surged in Lin Shi's heart. In this lawless frontier sector, such trust was more precious than gold. Give me that module, Lin Shay said solemnly. The bone-eroding pirates will definitely come back for revenge. Black Rock Station is no longer safe. Come with me. I can protect you. He looked at the Rust Falcon's parameters on the screen. With the drive module, the development of the dark matter engine would be at least half the time earlier. By then, not to mention the bone-eroding pirates. Even the Federation's main fleet, he would have the confidence to fight. All right, Su Qing's voice was firm. The Rust Falcon towed the damaged transport ship, slowly heading toward the abandoned mining field on the outskirts of Blackrock Station. Lin Shaye stood in the bridge watching the gradually sharpening outline of the mining field outside the porthole, a sharp light gleaming in his eyes. He knew that after obtaining the drive module, the peaceful days were completely over. The forces behind the bone-eroding pirates, the Federation's investigation, even other possible spark components. Countless dangers were approaching. But he showed no fear. The spark core in his palm grew slightly warm, and the auxiliary core mark on his forehead flickered with a pale golden light, as if resonating with the approaching storm. Lin Shaye clenched his fist, a confident smile curling at the corner of his lips. Storm or not, his Rust Falcon was ready. The gravitational field of the abandoned mine twisted the starlight as the Rust Falcon and Su Qing's transport ship hovered silently behind a colossal iron-nickel asteroid. Lin Shaye, clad in a simple maintenance suit, boarded the battered transport ship through the docking passage. The cockpit was thick with the scent of ozone and scorched metal. Su Qing was crouched before the console, struggling to pry off a deformed armor plate with a wrench. Hearing footsteps, she turned and offered a weary yet bright smile. Just in time. This thing is stuck in the energy conduit, and I can't get it out. Lin Shaye walked over and under the emergency light saw it clearly. Wedged in the pipe gap beneath the armor plate was a palm-sized silver cube, its surface flowing with ethereal blue energy lines, each pulse emitting a faint yet pure wave of energy. This is the drive module. He reached out, and the moment his fingertips touched the cube's surface, a familiar warmth spread through his fingers, resonating wonderfully with the spark core in his palm and the auxiliary core imprint on his forehead. MHM. Found it in the wreckage of a research vessel. It was inside a radiation-proof container, and I brought it back, because the material looked special. Su Qing wiped the sweat from her brow. Never thought it would cause such trouble. The bone-eating pirates chased me for 3 days. If it weren't for you. Don't say that. Lin Shaye interrupted, grabbing a high-frequency, vibrating rod from the toolbox. This module is related to the engine I'm researching. It has to be removed intact. The vibrating rod hummed, sending fine shockwaves along the pipe, soon loosening the deformed metal. Lin Shaye carefully used tweezers to extract the silver cube. The moment the module left the pipe, the blue light on its surface flared brightly, spinning in his palm, perfectly aligning with the spiral patterns of the spark core. It really matches. Su Qing gasped, covering her mouth. Lin Shaye's heart surged. He could clearly feel the energy flow of the spark core becoming smoother, as if a blocked channel had suddenly been opened. He immediately called out through the communicator, "Spark, check module compatibility. Scanning. Drive module energy, purity 98. 7-100 match with main core. Energy transfer efficiency raised to theoretical maximum. Dark matter engine design missing parameters are auto-completing. Completion successful." For the first time, Spark's voice carried a noticeable fluctuation. The screen instantly displayed a complete 3D model of the dark matter engine, a precision device composed of 12 ring-shaped energy generators with a reserved interface at the core for the drive module, surrounded by intricate dark matter guidance circuits. Can it really be built? Su Qing leaned in to look at the screen, her eyes filled with awe. She had seen many engine designs at the trading post, but never one so exquisite. The curved circuits seemed to embody some cosmic law. Not only can it be built, but it can be faster. Lin Shaye clenched the drive module, excitement gleaming in his eyes. With this, the energy output is stable enough. We can use the wreckage of a Guardian-class engine as the base frame. Preliminary assembly can be completed in 3 days. Just then the Rust Falcon's alarm blared. Spark's voice turned urgent alert. Massive energy signatures detected from the direction of Blackrock Station, Federation fleet. Over 20 vessels heading toward the mine. Lin Shaye and Su Qing exchanged a glance, both seeing the gravity in each other's eyes. Why would the Federation fleet suddenly come here? Su Qing frowned. They rarely leave the core shipping lanes, and they wouldn't dispatch so many warships. Lin Shaye quickly switched to the Federation public channel, which was broadcasting an emergency announcement issued by the highest commander of Blackrock Station in a cold tone. "Attention all units, a prohibited technology signal from the Spark project has been detected in the Edge Star sector. A full lockdown is now in effect. No vessel is permitted to enter or leave. Violators will be shot on sight." It's the drive module's signal. Lin Shaye realized instantly. The Federation must have specialized detectors. The module's energy fluctuation just now revealed our location. Then what do we do? Su Qing's face paled. 20 Federation warships. Even the modified Rust Falcon stood no chance. Lin Shaye forced himself to calm down, his mind racing. Though the Federation fleet outnumbered them, the mine's asteroid belt terrain was complex. They wouldn't dare use heavy weapons recklessly. That was the only opportunity. Sister Su immediately moved all usable parts from the transport ship to the Rust Falcon, especially the energy storage tanks. He made a snap decision. Spark, plot a covert route through the asteroid belt targeting the forgotten star track. The space turbulence there will block all scans. Route plotted, but we need the dark matter engine's instantaneous burst power to cross the largest meteor swarm. Then we start the engine assembly early. Lin Shaye turned and dashed toward the maintenance bay. I'll work in the repair bay. You pilot the Rust Falcon to evade. We must break out of the mine before the Federation fleet forms an encirclement. Back on the Rust Falcon, Lin Shaye immediately installed the drive module into the temporary engine base. The moment the silver cube snapped and the 12 ring-shaped generators lit up simultaneously, azure energy streams spiraling up along the circuits, emitting a low hum. Energy injection initiated. Dark matter capture rate at 30. 50. Sparks data stream refreshed wildly. Outside the maintenance bay, the Federation fleet had entered the mine's perimeter. The leading two destroyers began firing main cannons at surrounding asteroids, trying to clear a path. Huge fragments of rock hurtled past like cannonballs. The Rust Falcon under Su Qing's control dodged nimbly, the hull occasionally struck by debris producing dull thuds. Port side armor damaged. Energy reserve down to 60. Su Qing's voice was breathless. Dark matter capture rate at 80. Engine preheated, ready to start. Spark shouted. Lin Shaye stared at the approaching Federation warships on the screen, took a deep breath, and said, Sister Su, get ready. Target the meteor swarm gap. Countdown 3 seconds. 3. The Rust Falcon abruptly turned and charged toward a dense cluster of asteroids ahead, where a narrow gap only a few hundred meters wide existed, with asteroids spinning and colliding at high speed around it. 2. Lin Shaye pressed the engine start button. The drive module burst with blinding blue light, and the 12 generators simultaneously ejected dark purple energy beams. The space around seemed to warp, forming an invisible force field. 1. Dark matter engine engage. Bang! An unimaginable thrust slammed from the stern, pressing Lin Shaye and Su Qing into their seats. The view outside suddenly blurred, not because of speed, but because space itself was folding. The meteor swarm outside the porthole stretched like noodles, flashing past on both sides. The Federation fleet's gunfire turned into distant specks behind them. In just 10 seconds, the Rust Falcon burst out of the asteroid belt. Before them lay a star region filled with dark purple turbulent currents. This was the Forgotten Star track. All Federation scan signals vanished completely. The engine slowly shut down. Lin Shaye and Su Qing collapsed into their seats, panting heavily. We escaped. Su Qing looked at the eerie turbulence outside the porthole, still in disbelief. The instantaneous speed just now had surpassed her understanding of physical loss. Lin Shaye nodded, glancing at the engine parameters on the screen. Initial test of the dark matter engine successful. Not stable yet, but enough to shake off the pursuers. He paused, then turned to Su Qing. Sorry for dragging you into this mess. Su Qing smiled, her expression bright. Trouble. I think this is way more interesting than guarding a trading post at Blackrock Station. She pointed at the dark matter engine model on the screen. Seriously, Lin Shaye, what exactly are you trying to do? Just to retrofit a warship. Lin Shaye was silent for a moment, looking out at the deep cosmos. He remembered the bullying he endured in the Edge Star sector, the lives ignored by pirates and the Federation, and the threat of the Zerg recorded in the Spark Core. I want to build a real warship. His voice was low but firm. A ship that can protect itself, protect those I want to protect, and even change the rules of this star sector. The Federation is corrupt, pirates are rampant, and the Zerg threat has never disappeared. If no one stands up, this place will always be hell. Su Qing looked at the light in his eyes and suddenly understood. This scavenger, once looked down upon at Blackrock Station, held a galaxy in his heart. Then I'll help you. She extended her hand palm up. I know starship trade, where to get rare materials, which factions to cooperate with, and which to avoid. Your warship needs a logistics officer, doesn't it? Lin Shaye stared at her outstretched hand, hesitated for a moment, then grasped it. Her hand was warm with calluses from years of moving parts. Welcome aboard, logistics officer Su. They exchanged smiles, the previous tension and fatigue seemingly dissipated. The Rust Falcon sailed slowly through the turbulence of the Forgotten Star track, and from the maintenance bay came the low hum of the dark matter engine, as if gathering strength. Lin Shaye knew their journey had only just begun. Ahead lay more challenges, more secrets, and perhaps a storm capable of overturning the galaxy. But he was no longer alone. The spark core in his palm resonated with the drive module, emitting a steady blue light, like two beating hearts kindling new hope in this Forgotten Star region. The dark purple turbulence of the Forgotten Star track slowly churned like frozen flames in the starry sky. The energy shield of the Rust Falcon occasionally rippled with sapphire light, defending against high-energy particles carried in the turbulence. The space here was extremely unstable. Even a 1-meter diameter meteorite accelerated by the turbulence could possess the power to pierce a cruiser's armor. The cooling system of the dark matter engine still needs optimization. The recent short-range jump caused the core temperature to exceed the limit by 17. Lin crouched in the maintenance bay, the laser welding torch in his hand emitted a thin red light as he repaired a slight crack on the engine shell. The drive module was embedded in the engine core, its faint blue light seeping through the alloy gaps, casting dancing light spots on the cabin wall. Su-Ching stood aside with her arms crossed, holding an energy analysis tablet. According to the data I found deep in the forgotten star track, there is a zero space station, an outpost established by the Federation 300 years ago, later abandoned due to intensified spatial turbulence. The main reactor there is said to still function. Perhaps we can find suitable cooling conduits. She paused, pointing at the red dot on the analysis tablet. But the coordinates show an abnormal gravitational field around the space station. There may be Guardians. Lin crouched, raised his head, the red light of the welding torch flickering on his face. They are native creatures of the star track. Su-Ching pulled up a blurry holographic image, showing a massive octopus-like creature with tentacles extending up to 100 meters, its surface covered with metallic scales. They feed on the energy in spatial turbulence and are highly aggressive towards ships that intrude into their territory. The Federation's archives record that at least 7 patrol ships were torn apart by them. Lin crouched, watched the image of the Guardian shredding a ship's shield, his brow furrowing. The Rust Falcon's new armor could withstand conventional firepower, but against such a massive creature, it might still be insufficient. Is there no other way? Unless you want the dark matter engine to explode like fireworks on the next start. Su-Ching waved the analysis tablet. The cooling conduits at Zero Space Station are made of star frost alloy with heat resistance 3 times that of our current materials. That might be the only place in the entire star domain where they remain. Lin crouched, put down the welding torch, wiping the grease off his hands. Then let's go check it out. He looked at the engine parameters on the screen, his gaze resolute. The dark matter engine must operate perfectly. It's our only capital to escape the Federation and pirates. The Rust Falcon adjusted its course and headed deeper into the forgotten star track. The deeper they went, the more violent the spatial turbulence became. Dark purple energy bands slithered around the hull like giant pythons, and the starlight outside the portholes was twisted into eerie arcs. Detecting a strong gravitational field 1.2 light-years away, the voice of Fireseed rang out, and an irregular gravitational wave pattern appeared on the screen. Zero Space Station should be at the center of the gravitational field. Lin crouched, carefully piloted the ship through an energy turbulence, and finally a ruined space station came into view. It looked like a gnawed planet, its shell riddled with massive holes, exposed metal supports screeching in the turbulence, the only light coming from the red glow at its core like dying eyes. Right there, Su-Ching pointed at the power module of the space station. The cooling conduits should be in the spare parts depot next to the reactor. Just as the Rust Falcon was about to dock, the surrounding spatial turbulence suddenly surged violently. Dark purple energy bands like startled fish madly converged in one direction. Warning. Detected high-speed life forms approaching. Fireseed's alarm sounded shrill. Lin crouched, snapped his gaze to the porthole, only to see a massive Guardian charging out of the turbulence, its 100-meter-long tentacles whipping with a piercing sound, metallic scales glinting coldly in the starlight. Activate shields. Hard to port. Lin crouched, roared as he yanked the controls. The Rust Falcon shot sideways like an arrow released from a bow, barely dodging the sweeping tentacle. But more Guardians followed. 5 of them circling the Rust Falcon, their tentacles slamming against the shield with dull, thunderous sounds. The shield energy bar on the screen visibly dropped. They see us as prey. Su-Ching quickly operated the weapon system. Pulse railgun fully charged. Should we counterattack? Lin crouched, watched the Guardians' agile forms, and shook his head. Their scales are too tough. The railgun might not penetrate, and it would only enrage them further. Fireseed analyzed their attack pattern. Data streams scrolled rapidly across the screen. Attack interval 3.7 seconds. Tentacle swing amplitude positively correlated with spatial turbulence intensity. Found a pattern. They use the turbulence to accelerate. The center of the gravitational field is their weak point. Lin crouched, eyes lit up. Sister Sue, help me stabilize the ship. Fireseed, calculate the route to the center of the gravitational field. I'm going in. The Rust Falcon suddenly turned, no longer evading, but charging straight toward a Guardian. The Guardian roared and lashed its tentacles, but Lin crouched, swerved sharply, the ship grazing its scales as it slipped into the gap behind it with hair's breadth precision. Now, dark matter engine short-range jump. A blue flash, and the Rust Falcon instantly appeared at the center of the gravitational field. The space here was eerily calm, the turbulence blocked, as if by an invisible wall, the wreckage of Zero Space Station, clearly visible. The pursuing Guardians prowled at the edge of the gravitational field, roaring in fury, but dared not cross the line. So they fear this gravitational field. Su-Ching breathed a sigh of relief, her forehead soaked in cold sweat. Lin crouched, however, stared at the gravitational wave pattern on the screen, thoughtful. Not fear. The energy here is harmful to them. Look, the energy frequency at the gravitational field center is completely opposite to the resonance frequency of their scales. Suddenly, he recalled data from the auxiliary core. Some creatures in the universe evolve resistance to specific energies, often indicating that their natural enemies or habitats are connected to that energy. Forget that for now, let's get the cooling conduits. Lin Crouched put on his spacesuit. They'll go to the spare parts depot. You stay on the bridge on alert. Entering Zero Space Station through the docking tunnel, he was hit by the thick smell of dust and corroded metal. The emergency lights in the corridor flickered, casting eerie shadows on the bones scattered on the floor. Lin Crouched carried a magnetic rifle and headed toward the power module following the map Su-Ching gave him. The station's gravity system had long failed. He floated in the air occasionally, pushing off the cabin walls with his magnetic boots. Passing a control room, he noticed a display screen still glowing, showing a blurry recording. The image showed space station researchers terrified, shouting at the screen. Then the picture shook violently as a Guardian's tentacle smashed through the control room's porthole and the recording cut off. Looks like the station's abandonment is definitely related to the Guardians, Lin Crouched murmured, quickening his pace. The door to the power module was warped. He cut an opening with a plasma cutter and crawled inside. The reactor was still running at low power, humming, and the adjacent spare parts depot was intact. Lin Crouched opened the depot, where various parts were neatly stacked. In the top box, sure enough, were a dozen silver-white cooling conduits, their surfaces engraved with the unique patterns of star frost alloy. Found them. He reached out to grab them, but the metal floor beneath him suddenly trembled. Not from the Guardians outside, but from within the space station. Lin Crouched spun around only to see a creature slowly crawling out of the shadows at the far end of the power module. It was smaller than the Guardians outside, only 30 meters long, with slender tentacles, no metallic scales, but covered with a translucent membrane beneath, which faint golden veins were visible. Is this a juvenile? Lin Crouched gripped his rifle and stepped back warily. But the small Guardian didn't attack. Instead, it rubbed its head against the reactor shell, letting out a pitiful whimper. Lin Crouched then noticed that one of its tentacles was pinned by a fallen steel bar, with pale golden blood oozing from the wound, constantly scorched by the reactor's high heat. It wasn't attacking, it was asking for help. Lin Crouched hesitated, then looked at the steel bar pinning the tentacle. It would take at least 10 tons of force to move it, impossible with his spacesuit alone. His eyes fell on a hydraulic crane nearby, equipment used to move parts in the station. It might still be functional. A few minutes later, Lin Crouched operated the crane and carefully lifted the steel bar. The small Guardian retracted its tentacle and gently bumped his spacesuit with its head, as if in gratitude. Just then the Guardians outside suddenly changed their roars, no longer angry, but with a hint of anxiety. Lin Crouched suddenly understood. The Guardians outside weren't attacking the Rust Falcon. They were trying to prevent them from approaching because their young was here. I see, Lin Crouched smiled, hoisting the box of cooling conduits. We're leaving, little one. Just as he was about to leave, the small Guardian suddenly sprayed a stream of pale golden liquid onto his spacesuit. The liquid instantly seeped in, forming a thin film on the helmet's visor. This is... Lin Crouched was astonished to find that the film on the visor clearly displayed the energy flow patterns around him, even predicting the direction of spatial turbulence. Detected unknown biological liquid film with energy perception function perfectly integrated with the host spacesuit. Fireseed's voice came. The Guardians outside are withdrawing. Lin Crouched returned to the Rust Falcon with the cooling conduits. Su-Ching looked at the film on his visor in surprise. What happened? It's a long story. Lin Crouched handed her the cooling conduits. Let's install them first and see the effect. When the star frost alloy cooling conduits were connected to the dark matter engine, the engine temperature instantly dropped by 30, and the hum of core operation became steady and low. Data on the screen showed that engine stability had improved by at least 5 times. Perfect fit. Su-Ching clapped excitedly. The Rust Falcon departed from Zero Space Station, and the Guardians indeed did not attack again, merely following at a distance until the ship left the bounds of the Forgotten Star track. Lin Crouched looked at the dark matter engine parameters on the screen, then touched the liquid film on his visor, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. This trip to the Forgotten Star track not only secured the critical part, but also unexpectedly received a gift from the Guardians. Where to next? Su-Ching asked. Lin Crouched pulled up a star map, his finger pointing at a region marked in red. The Blood Nebula. There's an abandoned Federation military factory there, rumored to still have a half-finished stellar main cannon. His gaze sharpened. The Rust Falcon needs real things. The Rust Falcon changed course. The dark matter engine started again, transforming into a blue light as it vanished into the depths of the universe. Outside the porthole, the dark purple turbulence of the Forgotten Star track still churned as if nothing had happened. But Lin Crouched knew that from this day forward he had forged a wondrous bond with the Guardians of this perilous star region. And this perhaps one day in the future would become the key to turning the tide of battle. The Blood Nebula was the most eerie presence in this star sector. A layer of crimson energy mist enshrouded the entire nebula, teeming not only with cosmic rays that could disrupt ship sensors, but also countless floating asteroids that collided at high speeds under magnetic forces, forming a natural death trap. In the bridge of the Rust Falcon, Lin Shaye stared intently at the radar waveforms dancing across the screen. The dark matter engine was throttled to minimum power, the hull surface coated with a layer of bioluminescent film brought from the forgotten Star Trek. This membrane could absorb most infrared signals, rendering the warship invisible within the red haze. 5 light-years to target. Energy mist concentration at 70%. Sensor effective range reduced to 0.3 light-years. Spark's voice crackled with electronic interference. Detecting an asteroid cluster ahead, relative velocity 12 kilometers per second. Su Qing pulled up a three-dimensional star map, her fingers sweeping across the virtual asteroid field. The military factory is built inside the core of an abandoned planet. The entrance is hidden in a crater on the planet's far side. But to get there we must cross this asteroid belt. Back then the Federation deliberately altered the asteroid's trajectories with gravity devices to turn it into a labyrinth for secrecy. Lin Shaye stared at the dense red dots on the screen and took a deep breath. Import the asteroid's motion parameters into the dark matter engine's auxiliary system. I'm going to short-range jump through it. It was an extremely risky maneuver, jumping within a visual range of 0.3 light-years, where even 1 meter of error could send them crashing into an asteroid, obliterating them instantly. But conventional navigation would take 3 days, and they didn't have that much time. The Federation patrol fleet might already be closing in on the nebula's outskirts. Parameters imported. Jump coordinates locked. Spark's voice was unusually steady. Lin Shaye gripped the control stick, his eyes sharp as an eagle's. Sister Sue, watch my left blind spot. There might be small asteroids the scan missed. Roger. The Rust Falcon slowly entered the asteroid belt. In the red haze, massive rock masses brushed past like phantoms, and fragments pelted the hull from time to time, producing dull thuds. Lin Shaye was utterly focused, each jump time to the millisecond. Jump prep. 3, 2, 1. A flash of blue light. The warship vanished, reappearing a second later in the gap between 2 asteroids less than 10 meters from the rock on the right. Su Qing gasped and covered her mouth, but Lin Shaye remained expressionless, immediately calculating the next jump. Repeating this over a dozen times, the Rust Falcon darted through the deadly maze like a nimble fish. When the last jump concluded, they finally burst out of the asteroid belt, revealing an abandoned planet with a surface scarred by countless black craters. This is it. Su Qing pointed to a gigantic ring depression on the planet's far side. The entrance is at the center of the ring, disguised as an ordinary rock. The Rust Falcon skimmed the planet's surface, the red mist parting before the hull, revealing the cracked earth. At the center of the ring depression indeed sat a conspicuous rock. Its color was a shade lighter than the surrounding soil, and the edges bore traces of artificial cutting. Spark, fire the pulse cannon at its lower right corner. That's where the energy lock is. Lin Shaye ordered. The railgun gave a muffled blast, and a beam precisely struck the rock. With a sharp crack, the rock slid aside, revealing a metal passage wide enough for a small warship. A faint red glow emanated from deep within. Let's go inside. The Rust Falcon entered the passage, a metal tunnel 50 meters in diameter. The walls were covered with pipelines, some still spitting electric sparks. After flying for about 10 minutes, an open underground space appeared ahead. The Federation's secret military. Giant mechanical arms hung in the air, still bearing unfinished cannon barrels. Rows of energy cores lay piled on the ground, thick with dust. At the deepest part stood a furnace 100 meters tall, its temperature gauge showing signs of operation from a decade ago. This place is better preserved than I imagined, Su Qing exclaimed. Look at those energy cores. They still have at least 60% power reserve. But Lin Shaye's eyes were drawn to a console beside the furnace, its screen still glowing. It displayed an encrypted file entitled Termination Report for Star Class Main Cannon Dawn. Spark, can you crack the encryption? Attempting decryption successful. The file opened, and its contents made Lin Shaye and Su Qing's faces turn pale. The report stated that the Dawn cannon's power far exceeded expectations, capable of piercing the shields of 10 cruisers in 1 second. But it had a fatal flaw: it required a living star core as its energy source. A living star core was an energy-based life form born inside a star. To obtain it, the Federation had destroyed 3 young stars that nurtured such cores, causing the collapse of ecosystems in over a dozen neighboring colonies. Worse still, the report included a photo attached at the end, a translucent creature confined in an energy chamber, its form resembling a flowing mass of light with a pulsating heart at its core, the living star core. And the photo's date was the day before the factory's abandonment. They actually, Su Qing's voice trembled, destroyed an entire star system just for a weapon. Lin Shaye's fists clenched white. He had always known the Federation's darkness existed only in the outer star regions, but he never imagined the core military would commit such heinous acts in the name of weapon development. Just then the furnace gave a loud rumble, its lid slowly lifting. Instead of molten magma, inside lay a massive metal platform. At the platform's center in an energy chamber lay a flowing mass of light, the living star core from the photo. It was still alive, detecting a strong life signal. Energy level equivalent to 3 standard stars. Spark's voice carried shock. Its vitality is rapidly draining, apparently bound by some device. Lin Shaye walked to the console and saw a red button marked Emergency Destruction Procedure. Clearly, when the Federation abandoned the factory, they hadn't had time to eliminate this evidence of guilt. What do we do? Su Qing looked at Lin Shaye. Activate the destruction procedure, or... She didn't finish, for the entire factory suddenly shook violently. Ear-splitting explosions came from the entrance passage. Alert! External attack detected. It's the Federation fleet. They've breached the asteroid belt and are bombarding the entrance. Spark's alarm blared. Leading them is the Federation flagship Titan, equipped with heavy particle cannons. Lin Shaye snapped his gaze to the screen. Titan's energy signature blazed like a lighthouse in the red mist, at least 5 cruisers flanking it. How did they find this place? Su Qing's face turned ashen. It's the living star core's energy signal, Lin Shaye realized instantly. The Federation must have dedicated detectors tracking it. They're not here to capture us. They're here to destroy the core. Titan's main cannon began charging. The entire abandoned planet trembled, cracks spreading across the factory's metal walls. The entrance can hold at most 5 more minutes. Lin Shaye looked at the living star core in the energy chamber. It seemed to sense the danger, its glow dimming, the heart beating slower and slower. He thought of the star system destroyed in the report, of the lives obliterated by the Federation's greed. We can't let it be destroyed just like that. Lin Shaye's voice was suddenly firm, his eyes resolute. Sister Su, help me dismantle the energy chamber's restraints. Spark, calculate the energy parameters for transferring the star core to the Rust Falcon. Are you insane? Su Qing gasped. That thing's energy is enough to blow up half a warship. And the Federation will never let us go. The Federation never intended to let us go anyway, Lin Shaye said firmly, while tearing into the console's wiring. But this creature is innocent. If we abandon it now, how are we any different from those executioners who destroyed the star system? Su Qing looked into his eyes. There was not a shred of hesitation. She gritted her teeth, turned, and dashed to the energy chamber, grabbing a plasma cutter from the toolbox. Where do I cut? The 3 restraint tubes at the bottom of the energy chamber. Be careful, they contain antimatter streams. As the two worked on dismantling the restraints, Titan's main cannon finally fired. A blinding beam pierced the abandoned planet's crust, striking straight toward the factory. The colossal shockwave sent Lin Shaye and Su Qing flying. The entrance has been blown open. Federation Marines are entering. Spark roared. Lin Shaye struggled to his feet. He saw the energy chamber's restraints had been removed, and the living star core transformed into a stream of light, voluntarily darting into the Rust Falcon's backup energy compartment, as if it knew this was the only path to survival. Move. Lin Shaye grabbed Su Qing and rushed toward the warship. The Rust Falcon burst out of the underground space, but as soon as it left the abandoned planet, it was encircled by the Federation fleet. On Titan's bridge, the commander watched the Rust Falcon on his screen and curled his lips into a cold smirk. Shoot down that scrap ship. Remember, the star core must be destroyed. Leave no trace. Dozens of beams converged on the Rust Falcon. The shields were pierced instantly, smoke billowing from the hull. Engine damaged. Starboard cannon destroyed. Lin Shaye stared at the closing fleet on the screen, then at the living star core that had quieted inside the energy compartment. A look of fierce determination flashed in his eyes. Spark, divert all power to the dark matter engine. Target directly in front of Titan. What are you doing? Su Qing and Spark cried in unison. Trust me, Lin Shaye said, his voice eerily calm. Initiate jump. The Rust Falcon vanished from its spot and reappeared a second later directly in front of Titan's main cannon. The Federation commander's pupils contracted. He hadn't expected the enemy to charge in such a suicidal manner. Charge the main cannon. Shoot it down. But it was too late. Lin Shaye opened the backup energy compartment and roared into Titan's communication channel. You wanted to destroy it, didn't you? Look at this. The living star core felt Titan's hostility and suddenly erupted with dazzling light. Its energy intensity multiplied tenfold in an instant, illuminating the entire blood nebula. Titan's sensors overloaded immediately, and the main cannon's charging sequence went into chaos. Now, Lin Shaye steered the Rust Falcon, diving under Titan's hull. The dark matter engine unleashed its last surge of thrust, propelling them toward the asteroid belt. The Federation fleet was thrown into disarray by the energy shockwave from the living star core. By the time they recovered, the Rust Falcon had vanished into the red mist. Titan's commander slammed his fist on the console, his face ashen. After them. Turn this nebula upside down if you have to. Find that ship. In the asteroid belt, the Rust Falcon's engines had gone completely dead, floating between 2 massive rocks. Lin Shaye slumped in his seat, looking at the now quiet living star core in the energy compartment, and smiled. We made it out, Su Qing said, her voice trembling with the relief of survival. Lin Shaye nodded, his gaze shifting to the energy readings on the screen. Though the living star core's energy was violent, it seemed to be actively adapting to the Rust Falcon's systems, even beginning to repair the damaged engines. Maybe taking it was the right choice, he murmured. The Rust Falcon drifted slowly through the asteroid belt, the red haze concealing its trail. Lin Shay knew that this time they had not only retrieved an incomplete star-class main cannon, but also stumbled upon a secret that would send Federation High Command into panic. The road ahead would be even more perilous. But there was no fear in his eyes, only a fire that burned. The Rust Falcon hung like an abandoned metal fragment, silently suspended between two massive asteroids. Charred marks on the hull still trailed wisps of smoke, twisted wires exposed where the starboard gun barrel had snapped. The entire vessel seemed to tremble from the narrow escape under the Titan's watch. Lin Shen leaned against the maintenance bay wall, gazing at the flowing light within the energy containment chamber. The living star core had quieted since its time in the military factory. A soft golden glow gently enveloped the chamber. The once violent energy fluctuations had steadied, now pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. It seems to be repairing the ship. Su Qing entered carrying a cup of warm nutrient solution, pointing at the circuit board outside the containment chamber. There the wires severed by cannon fire were being wrapped in the star core's faint glow. The broken ends slowly healed, a glossy sheen spreading across the metal surface. Lin Shen leaned closer, his fingertips almost touching the energy barrier of the containment chamber. Sparks analyzed the star core's energy properties. The screen instantly displayed a data stream, detecting unknown energy particles with high restorative and adaptive capabilities capable of resonating with metal and energy circuits. Currently, the star core is repairing hull damage at a cost of 0.01 of its energy per minute. 0.01. Su Qing's eyes widened. Its total energy equals that of 3 stars. This loss is negligible. Lin Chen's mind stirred. If this energy could be channeled, wouldn't the Rust Falcon gain self-repair abilities? Even more, could the star core directly power the dark matter engine and the future stellar-class main cannon? He pressed his palm against the containment chamber's wall. The spiral patterns on the spark's core instantly flared. A wondrous thing happened. The star core's light burst violently, a delicate thread of light piercing the energy barrier to connect with the patterns on his palm. In an instant, a flood of information surged into his mind. Not cold data streams, but a warm stream of consciousness filled with longing for starlight, fear of imprisonment, and trust in Lin Shen. It's communicating with you. Su Qing gasped, covering her mouth. Lin Shen closed his eyes, feeling the stream, and whispered, "It says its name is Xinghe, the final life born from that destroyed star system." In Xing's consciousness were vivid images of the Federation fleet tearing apart the star's shell, capturing it with energy nets, while still gestating and draining its energy day after day in the military factory. Scenes that twisted Lin Shen's heart with pain. "Let's help it," Lin Shen said, opening his eyes with unwavering determination. "Not just protect it, but find." At that moment, Xinghe emitted a frantic flash. The consciousness stream in Lin Shen's mind turned chaotic, a sharp sense of danger. Alert! Detecting a hyperspace jump signal 1 light-year away. It's the Federation's Ghost Fleet. Spark's voice carried unprecedented gravity. Their ships are painted black, no identification signals, energy readings stronger than the Titan. Lin Shen dashed to the bridge. The star chart showed 12 pure black warships emerging from a jump corridor, their angular hulls covered in matte coatings that absorbed radar waves like sharks lurking in the abyss. Ghost Fleet. Su Qing's face paled. That's not a regular Federation unit. It's a secret force under the Supreme Council tasked with cleaning anyone who knows the Federation's dark secrets. They even kill their own. The black ships sent no communication request. They directly began charging their main cannons. Unlike the Titan's particle beams, their weapons emitted eerie dark energy fluctuations, seemingly devouring all light. Thereafter, Xinghe to erase all evidence. Lin Shen gritted his teeth. Su, activate every operable weapon. Sparks channel Xing's energy to the shields. Xinghe seemed to understand. The light in the containment chamber blazed, and a gentle, yet powerful energy flowed through the conduits into the Rust Falcon shield system. The crumbling shields instantly solidified, their surface rippling with faint golden waves. Boom, boom, boom. 3 dark energy shells struck simultaneously. The golden ripples churned violently, but showed no sign of breaking. In the Ghost Fleet's command bridge, a man in a silver mask stared at the data on his screen and chuckled lowly. Interesting. That star core can actually reinforce shields. It seems we'll have to use the annihilation bomb. His adjutant's face shifted. Sir, the annihilation bomb's blast radius will engulf the entire asteroid belt, possibly. Carry out the order, the masked man interrupted, his tone ice cold. On the Rust Falcon screen, a red energy signal appeared, its intensity far exceeding any previous weapon, radiating a terror that could collapse space. It's an annihilation bomb. Sparks roared. That's a forbidden weapon that creates a micro black hole. Once detonated, space within 10 light years will be devoured. Lin Shen's heart pounded. The dark matter engine was damaged, short-range jumps were impossible, and standing their ground meant certain death. In that critical moment, Xing's consciousness stream surged into Lin Shen's mind again, this time bearing a clear direction, pointing deep into the asteroid belt toward a vortex-like spatial disturbance whose energy frequency perfectly matched Xing's own. That's... Lin Shen's pupils contracted. A natural spatial passage. Su Qing exclaimed, staring at the star chart. Xinghe can sense it. The Ghost Fleet's annihilation bomb had already launched its pitch-black tail, trailing at sublight speed its gravity, pulling nearby asteroids off course. 30 seconds left. Without hesitation, Lin Shen slammed the control stick, sparks channel all of Xing's energy. We're diving into that passage. The Rust Falcon shot forward like an arrow, boosted by Xing's energy to a speed far beyond normal, racing toward the vortex. Xing's light burst through the containment chamber, forming a golden shroud over the hull that shattered any asteroid in the way. The annihilation bomb closed in. The engines at the stern already felt the black hole's pull, metal hull beginning to warp. 10 seconds. Now, Lin Shen roared as he pressed the final button. The Rust Falcon plunged into the spatial vortex. Xing's energy resonated violently with the turbulence, twisting the surrounding space into a brief safe corridor. As the Rust Falcon vanished into the vortex, the annihilation bomb detonated. A micro-black hole formed at the center of the asteroid belt. Its immense gravity swallowed everything around, including the lead ships of the 12 black warships that couldn't dodge in time. At the other end of the spatial passage, the Rust Falcon burst out of twisted spacetime, crashing heavily into an unfamiliar star field. Here the star glowed in eerie blue-green, surrounded by countless crystal-like asteroids radiating gentle. Xing's consciousness stream brimmed with joy. It told Lin Shen that this was the realm of life, formed in the early universe, preserving the purest stellar energy, the perfect habitat. Lin Shen gazed at the peaceful star chart on the screen, then at Xing's increasingly soft glow in the containment chamber, and finally exhaled in relief. We survived. Su Qing slumped into her chair, a tired but radiant smile on her face. Lin Shen nodded, his eyes falling on the Rust Falcon's control panel. Under Xing's restorative energy, the dark matter engine's parameters had normalized, becoming even more stable. The main cannon components brought from the Blood Nebula military factory were now wrapped in Xing's energy, seemingly undergoing self-assembly. The Ghost Fleet won't give up, and the Federation Supreme Council must know about Xinghe by now. Lin Shen's gaze turned profound. Our next step is to complete the Rust Falcon's final transformation as quickly as possible. He looked out the viewport at the blue-green star field, Xing's new home, and the place where the Rust Falcon would be. When we emerge again, Lin Shen clenched his fist, his eyes blazing with fierce light. It will be time for the Federation and those lurking in the shadows to pay. Xinghe seemed to feel his resolve, emitting a warm glow that gently enveloped the entire bridge. In this distant realm of life far from conflict, a once-discarded warship, a surviving star core, and two people determined to change their fate began their most crucial transformation. And the storm across the galaxy had only just begun to brew. The blue-green starlight streamed through the porthole, casting dappled shadows in the repair bay of the Xiaosan. Lin Shen crouched on the floor, watching the miracle unfolding before him. The main cannon components brought back from the Crimson Nebula were wrapped in the pale golden energy emitted by Xinghe, assembling themselves as if alive. A 30-meter-long cannon barrel hovered in midair, its rust stripped away by the energy to reveal the silver-gray alloy beneath, with countless fine energy patterns flowing slowly across its surface, as if breathing of fragments of the energy core coalesced automatically, missing circuits filled by Xing's light filaments emitting a low humming sound. This is the true form of the Dawn main cannon. Su Qing held an energy detector, her voice full of awe. Xing's energy neutralized its original ferocity. Now the main cannon's energy output is stable within safe thresholds, but its power is at least twice that of the Federation-designed version. Lin Shen reached out to touch the cannon barrel, feeling a gentle vibration at his fingertips. Xing's stream of consciousness flooded into his mind, carrying clear information. The main cannon's cooling system could be directly connected to its energy cycle, allowing a rate of fire up to 3 rounds per second, without any risk of overload. The dark matter engine has also been modified. Huzhong's voice sounded in the cabin, and a 3D model of the engine popped up on the screen, showing an additional pale golden shield condensed from Xing's energy outside the original 12 sets of ring generators. Xing's energy can stabilize the annihilation reaction of dark matter, increasing the jump distance from the original 50 light-years to 200 light-years with an error of less than 1 meter. Lin Shen stood up and looked at Xinghe in the isolation pod. It had become much more active than when it first arrived. The volume of its light cluster had nearly doubled, and the heart, at its core, beat steadily and powerfully. The blue-green starlight passed through the isolation pod, refracting dreamlike halos on its body. It says it wants to help us complete the final step, Lin Shen said softly, gratitude in his eyes. Xinghe seemed to understand its light cluster rippling violently as a surge of energy far more massive than before flowed through the circuits to all parts of the ship. The outer hull of the Xiaosinhao began to change. Spiral patterns identical to Xing's light markings emerged on the original dark golden star crystal alloy armor swirling under the blue-green starlight. The breach at the bow was filled by energy condensing into a sharp diamond shape. Like a prowling beast, the bridge's viewport expanded threefold, covered with an energy membrane that could automatically adjust light. The entire process lasted 3 full days. When the energy dissipated, the Xiaosinhao floated quietly in the starlit sky of the domain of life, completely unrecognizable from its original scrap ship appearance. The silver-gray hull was sleek, and powerful pale golden energy lines spread across it like blood vessels. The diamond-shaped ram at the bow glinted coldly, and the 2 Dawn main cannons lay dormant, like sleeping dragons on either side. All ship parameters detected to meet stellar-level standards. Recommending a new name. Huzhong's voice carried a hint of barely detectable excitement. Lin Che stood in the brand-new bridge, his feet on a holographic floor, displaying the ship's data, the main screen before him, so clear it felt like being on the scene. He took a deep breath and looked at Su Qing beside him, the light in her eyes brighter than a star. Let's call it the Xinghe, Lin Che said softly. It is not only our warship, but also Xing's home. Xinghe seemed very pleased with the name. The light cluster in the isolation pod jumped joyfully, and the energy lines on the ship's surface flashed in sync, as if in response. Prepare for the maiden voyage test. Lin Che walked to the console, his fingers landing on the smooth control lever. Target the abandoned jump point at the edge of the domain of life, distance 150 light-years. Dark matter engine preheated, main cannon energy charge complete. Xinghe energy synchronization rate 100. Su Qing reported a series of data, her voice full of anticipation. Lin Che pushed down the control handle firmly. Jump initiate. The tail of the Xinghe spewed blue-green energy streams merging with the starlight. The next second the ship was enveloped in a pale golden light shield. The surrounding space rippled like water with a thrown stone, and the entire warship vanished instantly. Inside the jump tunnel, there was no longer the usual dizziness. Xing's energy acted as a gentle barrier isolating the ship from the twisted space. On the holographic screen, the star map refreshed at an astonishing speed, the distance of 150 light-years becoming but a blink under the push of the dark matter engine. When the Xinghe emerged from the jump tunnel, it was already steadily parked at the coordinates of the abandoned jump point. Around it floated rubble and derelict satellites, while a distant supernova remnant emitted a dark red glow. Jump error 0. 3 meters, engine temperature, normal energy consumption 1. 2. Huzhong's voice carried joy. Su Qing clapped her hands excitedly. Perfect. This is even faster than the Federation's most advanced Aurora-class warship. Before Lin Chi's smile could fade, a red alert popped up on the screen, detecting high-energy reaction distance 8 light-years rapidly approaching. It's the Ghost Fleet's signal. Su Qing's face turned solemn instantly. They actually tracked us. On the screen, 6 black warships were emerging from the jump tunnel, the leading one larger than those seen before, with a blood-red skull logo on its bow. Clearly the Ghost Fleet's flagship. How did they find this place? Lin Che frowned. Xing's stream of consciousness suddenly became urgent, and Lin Che instantly understood. It's the residual signal from the jump point. They've been monitoring all known jump channels. The Ghost Fleet's flagship sent a communication request, and on the screen appeared the man with a silver mask, his voice cold as iron. Hand over the star core, self-destruct your ship, and it'll leave you intact. Quite bold words. Lin Che sneered, switching to the public channel. You want Xinghe? Then come and take it. Reckless fool. The masked man's voice carried killing intent. All units main cannon charging, target the Xinghe. How prepare annihilation shells. The 6 black warships fanned out their main cannons, began charging, and the dark energy fluctuations caused the surrounding debris to disintegrate. Su Qing clenched her fists. They still want to use annihilation shells. This time let's show them what we're capable of. Lin Chi's gaze sharpened. Huazhong, lock onto the enemy flagship's engine room. Charge the Dawn. Main cannon energy output 80. Main cannon charged, lock completed. Xinghe, are you ready? Lin Che thought silently. The light cluster in the isolation pod flickered violently. A torrent of energy surged into the main cannon system, and the patterns on the barrel glowed with blinding light. Now fire. The 2 Dawn main cannons on the Xinghe roared simultaneously, 2 blue-green energy beams, like lightning tearing through darkness, carrying Xing's life force, crossing 8 light-years in an instant, and precisely hitting the Ghost Fleet flagship's engine room. There was no earth-shattering explosion, only a dazzling flash of light. The flagship's engines instantly shut down, the dark energy shield shattered like glass, and the ship lost control, crashing toward a nearby derelict satellite. What a... The masked man's voice was filled with incredulous shock. Lin Che gave them no chance to react. Dark matter engine, short-range jump to the enemy's left flank. The Xinghao vanished again, appearing the next second to the side and rear of two black warships. Continuous main cannon fire. The blue-green energy beams poured out like a rainstorm. The two warships that couldn't turn their guns in time were pierced, instantly exploding into two brilliant fireballs in the void. The remaining three black warships were terrified out of their wits, turning to flee. Thinking of leaving, a cold edge flashed in Lin Qi's eyes. Su Jia, activate the bow ramming procedure, maximize the energy shield. The Xinghao's bow blazed with blinding golden light, chasing the fleeing warship like a meteor. The sharp diamond-shaped ram, carrying the impact force of the dark matter engine, smashing a warship in half. The last two warships, seeing this, desperately initiated a jump, but Xing's energy had already locked onto their jump trajectory. Main cannon predictive fire. Two energy beams precisely hit the warships in the midst of spatial jumping. The jump tunnel collapsed instantly, and the two warships were torn apart by space turbulence, leaving no wreckage. The entire process took no more than 5 minutes. In the starry sky, only the powerless Ghost Fleet flagship and floating wreckage remained. Lin Che looked at the flagship on the screen. The masked man's communication request sounded again, this time with a tremor. "Who are you exactly?" Lin Che did not answer, merely guiding the Xinghao slowly toward the flagship, recharging the main cannon and aiming at its bridge. "No, we are the Supreme Council's direct force. You can't. The Federation's evidence of crime is useless anyway," Lin Che said softly, pressing the fire button. The blue-green energy beam pierced through the flagship's bridge, and fragments of the silver mask dissipated along with the explosion's firelight. The Xinghao floated in the void, blue-green starlight spilling over its hull, pale golden energy lines flowing slowly like a beast that had just finished its hunt. Lin Che stood at the viewport, watching the distant collapsing wreckage of the Ghost Fleet, feeling no ecstasy of victory, only a calm resolve. "We should set off." He turned to look at Su Qing. "There are many people waiting in the fringe star regions. It's time to settle accounts with the Federation and the hidden darkness." Su Qing nodded, her eyes shining with the same light as his. The Xinghao turned its bow. The dark matter engine restarted, blue-green energy streams cutting through the starry sky as it jumped toward the fringe star regions. This time it was no longer a scrap ship struggling to survive in the cracks. It was the Xinghao, the spark of hope, the storm about to sweep across the entire galaxy. And its legend had only just begun. As the Xinghao emerged from the jump tunnel, it happened to witness the defensive shield of Haiyan Station being torn open by cannon fire. A beam of dark crimson laser like a venomous serpent slithered into the station and blasted a storage complex into a sea of flames. Pirates clad in black mesh surged through the breach, their shoulder armor emblazoned with the emblem of the Sherbone Pirate Group, and their particle guns spewed rays of death without respite. "It's the Sherbone Pirate Group. They took advantage of the Federation fleet's redeployment to besiege Haiyan Station." Su Qing's voice was laced with urgency. On the holographic screen, the defense systems of Haiyan Station were extinguishing one by one, and the desperate screams of survivors crackled through the public channel, piercing the heart. Lin Qi's fists clenched tightly. Haiyan Station was where he had grown up. Though chaotic and lawless, it held the few warm memories he cherished. The vendors who hawked in the trade market, the technicians who toiled and sweated in the repair zone, even the station manager who always shortchanged his pay. All of them were now struggling under the pirates' butcher knives. Huazhong lock onto the engine compartments of all pirate ships. Lin Qi's voice was icy as if tempered by steel. "Sister Su, prioritize energy allocation to the main cannon. Boost the Xing's energy cycle to maximum efficiency. Main cannon fully charged, locked onto 12 pirate vessels. Xinghao energy sync rate at 100, ready for output." The Xinghao, like a silver lightning bolt, slipped silently into the battlefield. The pirate ships, preoccupied with besieging Haiyan Station, never sensed the danger until two beams of bluish-green energy descended from the heavens. Boom. Boom. The two pirate cruisers closest to Haiyan Station exploded instantly, their scorching fragments showering onto the shield breach like fireworks, incinerating the mech soldiers about to pour through. "Who the hell is that?" In the bridge of the Sherbone Pirate Group's flagship, the new leader, Tai, slammed the console. The screen suddenly displayed the Xing's image, its silver-gray hull gleaming coldly in the firelight, with pale golden energy patterns flowing like living organisms. "Is that the derelict ship that escaped from the forgotten Star Trek?" Tai Ya's pupils contracted. He had seen the Rust Falcon on Federation wanted posters, but this vessel, except for the general silhouette, matched nothing from his memory. Especially the two main cannons that exuded a terrifying aura, making his heart pound with inexplicable dread. "I don't care what ship it is. Shoot it down." Taya roared with a bluster that masked his fear. The remaining 10 pirate ships immediately swiveled their turrets, unleashing a torrent of dark crimson laser beams at the Xinghao. A cold smirk curled at the corner of Lin Qi's mouth. "Xinghao shields." The consciousness of the Xinghao responded with a warm pulse, and in an instant a pale golden energy barrier enveloped the ship's surface. The laser beam struck the shield, merely raising a series of ripples without leaving even a scratch. How is this possible? Taya stared in disbelief. Our turn now. Lin Shay pushed the control stick forward. The Xinghe wove through the pirate ships like a phantom, and the Dawn main cannon swept through them like a scythe of death. Each thunderous roar accompanied the disintegration of another pirate vessel. A bluish-green energy beam pierced the darkness, turning a pirate ship's engine bay into a fireball. The diamond-shaped ram at the bow, driven by the impact of the dark matter engine, smashed through another ship's shield, crumpling its hull. One pirate ship tried to deploy boarding mechs, but the moment its hatch opened, the Zing's secondary cannons riddled it with holes. Inside Haiyan Station, the survivors witnessed this awe-inspiring spectacle through the portholes. The scavenger Lin Shay, once scorned by everyone, was now piloting a warship of unprecedented power, sweeping through the pirate fleet like a god descending from the heavens. It's Lin Shay. He's back, someone shouted excitedly. Is that his rust falcon? How did it become so powerful? We are saved. Su Qing watched the cheering crowd on the screen from Haiyan Station, a glint of relief in her eyes. They were not done yet. Lin Shi's gaze locked on a Tai Yas flagship. We need to make them understand that the edge sectors are not a playground for anyone. The Xinghe suddenly vanished from its position and reappeared directly in front of the flagship, the muzzle of its main cannon pressed against the enemy's shield. Taya, remember Sister Su's transport ship? Lin Shi's voice cut through the public channel, cold and clear. Debts are due. Taya was terrified out of his wits, screaming frantically, raise the shields. Maximum shields now. But it was too late. The Dawn cannon thundered, and a bluish-green beam punched through the shield, piercing straight through the flagship's bridge. When the energy dissipated, the flagship, once a terror in the edge sectors, had become a drifting wreck. The remaining pirate ships, seeing this, had no heart to fight and turned to flee. Trying to run. A fierce glint flashed in Lin Shi's eyes. Huazhong, calculate the jump interception route. The Xinghe once again activated its dark matter engine, pursuing them like a relentless shadow. Against overwhelming speed and firepower, the pirate ships stood no chance. In less than 10 minutes, all invading pirate vessels were destroyed, leaving only wreckage floating in the starry void. The battle was over. The Xinghe slowly docked at Haiyan Station spaceport. When Lin Shay and Su Qing stepped out of the hatch, they were greeted by thunderous cheers. The vendors who had once mocked him, the station manager who had shortchanged his pay, all of them crowded at the front, their eyes filled with awe and gratitude. Lord Lin Shay, the station manager said, rubbing his hands together, his face a mask of fawning smiles. You are truly the savior of Haiyan Station. Lin Shay ignored his flattery. His gaze fell on a lame old man in the crowd, the owner of the repair shop, who had once secretly slipped him half a compressed biscuit when he was starving. Uncle Jean, are you all right? The old man was too choked up to speak, merely nodding incessantly, tears glistening in his clouded eyes. Just then a young man in a Federation military uniform pushed to the front and gave a sloppy salute. Mr. Lin Shay M. Zhao lay, a deserter from the 7th Federation Fleet. He paused, a flash of anger in his eyes. The Ghost Fleet is wiping out everyone who knows the secrets of the Star Corps. They killed all my comrades who I barely escaped. Lin Shi's heart stirred. Do you know where the Ghost Fleet's base is? Yes. Zhao Lei nodded firmly. Their main base is in the Abyss of Silence, a derelict prison planet abandoned by the Federation. The area is saturated with anti-jump mines, and only one secret passage leads in. Su Qing's expression grew grim. The Abyss of Silence. That place is even more dangerous than the Blood Nebula. No ship that entered has ever come out. But we have to go. Lin Shi's eyes turned resolute. Until the Ghost Fleet is eliminated, Xinghe and everyone who knows the truth will never be safe. He looked at the cheering crowd around him, then at the pale golden energy patterns on the Xinghe. Suddenly his voice rose. The Federation is corrupt. Pirates run rampant. Life in the edge sectors has been unbearable for far too long. Today we drove back the Sherbone pirate group, but the Ghost Fleet and the dark forces of the Federation are still watching us. Lin Shay refused to live in fear any longer. I will build a fleet that truly belongs to the edge sectors to protect our own home. Those willing to follow me step aboard the Xinghe now. We're heading to the Abyss of Silence to tear out the Ghost Fleet's lair. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted into even more fervent cheers. I'm in. Wherever Lord Lin Shay goes, I go. I've had enough of the Federation's tyranny. Count me in. I can fix engines. Take me. The lame old man hobbled forward on his crutch and faced Lin Shay. Child, Uncle Jean might be old, but I can still mind the warehouse. Count me in. Zhao Lei straightened his back. I know Federation tactics. I can be your strategist. Lin Shay looked at the people before him who were willing to follow him. Old and young technicians and merchants, even a Federation deserter like Zhao Lei. They might lack formal training, but their eyes burned with the same fire. A yearning for freedom, a determination to protect their home. Good. Lin Shay clenched his fist. From today we are the Xinghe Fleet. Target the abyss of 3 days later, after a brief resupply and refit, the Xinghe led a fleet of 30 modified civilian ships, a ragged yet spirited armada, slowly departing from Haiyan Station. At the viewport, Lin Che watched the station shrink into the distance, then glanced at Su Qing, Zhao Lei, and the people bustling in the cabins. His heart swelled with strength. He knew the Abyss of Silence would be a brutal battle. The Ghost Fleet's strength far exceeded that of the Sherbone pirate group, and they might even have Federation capital ships backing them. But he was no longer alone. The light of the Xinghe seeped through the isolation chamber, softly enveloping the bridge, as if cheering them on. The voyage of the Xinghe fleet had only just begun, and their legend forged in the flames of the Abyss of Silence would write its most glorious chapter. The Abyss of Silence is a corner forgotten by the universe. The dark, gray nebula like congealed ink devours the starlight until only ember-like glimmers remain. Countless abandoned prison satellites float like rotten teeth in the depths of the nebula, their surfaces covered in thick ice. Beneath the ice, twisted metal wrecks are faintly visible, graves of prisoners who attempted escape and guards who suppressed them. The Xinghe fleet cautiously navigated through the floating satellites. 30 modified ships followed the secret route provided by Zhao Lei, forming a goosewing formation behind the Xinghe. Standing before the auxiliary console of the Xinghe, Zhao Lei slid his fingers across the holographic star map, his brows furrowed. According to my intel, the Duanhuan Gorge is 3 light years ahead. The meteor belt there hides the Ghost Fleet's anti-jump mines. Triggering any one of them will trap the entire fleet in an explosive energy net. Lin Che stared at the fluctuating gravitational wave data on the screen. A faint warning came from Xing's consciousness. The spatial energy ahead was abnormally chaotic, as if artificially altered. Slow the fleet down and maintain radio silence, he said in a low voice. Spark, pull up the 3D model of Duanhuan Gorge. Combine Xing's energy perception and mark all mine locations. Pale golden energy ripples flowed across the surface of the Xinghe. Xing's perception extended like invisible tentacles, piercing through the dark gray nebula and exploring every inch of space in Duanhuan Gorge. On the holographic screen, dense red dots gradually emerged. They mimicked the energy signatures of ordinary meteorites, but under Xing's perception, they were completely exposed. At least 500 mines arranged in a honeycomb pattern with a trigger radius of 3 kilometers. Spark's voice carried gravity. The most troublesome is the mother mine at the center. Once detonated, it will release an electromagnetic pulse capable of paralyzing all ship systems. Su Qing gasped. The Ghost Fleet has turned the entire Duanhuan Gorge into a death trap. Lin Che's gaze landed on a nearly invisible gap on the star map, where the gravitational wave frequency differed slightly from the surroundings. Zhao Lei, is this gap naturally formed? Zhao Lei leaned in to examine it, then his eyes lit up. Yes, it's a passage blasted open to transport heavy equipment during the construction of the prison asteroid. It nearly closed later due to geological activity. The Ghost Fleet definitely didn't notice it. That's it, Lin Che said, gripping the control lever. Xinghe, use your energy shield to form barriers on both sides of the gap to prevent ships from touching the surrounding mines. All ships follow the Xinghe through the gap, one by one, maintaining a 50-meter distance. No active scanning. The Xinghe slowly entered Duanhuan Gorge. The pale golden shield on its surface suddenly expanded, forming a 100-meter-wide energy barrier. Dark gray meteorites scraped past the shield, causing ripples. The anti-jump mines hidden within slumbered like venomous snakes, indifferent to this uninvited barricade. 30 modified ships followed closely. The crew held their breath, watching the red dots mine locations marked by Xinghe brush past the viewports, their palms drenched in cold sweat. When the last ship passed through the gap, Lin Che finally let out a sigh of relief. They had successfully evaded the first trap. Exiting Duanhuan Gorge, the scene ahead opened up. A black planet over 3,000 kilometers in diameter floated at the center of the nebula, its surface riddled with honeycomb-like caves, the entrances to the former prison asteroid. 12 Ghost Fleet capital ships were moored around the planet, their matte black coatings rendering them nearly invisible in the dark nebula, except for a cold gleam when the main guns charged. Their defenses are tighter than we thought, Su Qing said, looking at the fleet formation on the screen. 12 capital ships arranged in a ring, perfectly blocking all routes to the prison asteroid. Zhao Lei pulled up the Ghost Fleet's tactical data. Their commander is Black Crow, the Federation's youngest 5-star admiral, known for his ruthlessness and paranoia. It's said that he deployed an annihilation matrix in the planet's core. If the base is breached, he'll detonate the entire planet, taking all enemies down with him. Lin Che's gaze fell on the north polar region of the prison asteroid, where the energy readings were much weaker than elsewhere. What's there? It's an abandoned geothermal power plant. Years ago, crustal movements caused pipeline ruptures, and it was sealed off long ago, Zhao Lei explained. Xing's consciousness suddenly became active, and Lin Che instantly understood. There's something wrong. Xinghe senses energy flow underground. Not geothermal, but artificially constructed energy circuits. A trap. Su Qing tensed up. Not necessarily, Lin Che said with a cold smirk. The more paranoid Black Crow is, the more likely he leaves a backup in the most unlikely place, like an escape route known only to him. He looked back at the 30 ships. Though crude after modifications, they were all equipped with pulse cannons brought from Haiyan Station. Zhao Lei take 20 ships and launch a feint from the front to draw their attention. Try to stay out of the Annihilation Matrix's range. And you? Zhao Lei asked. He'll take the Xinghe and the remaining 10 ships to the geothermal plant at the North Pole, Lin Che replied, his eyes sharp as blades. We're going to raid their lair and find the Annihilation Matrix's control center. Too dangerous. Su Qing objected. It's probably heavily guarded. The more dangerous the place, the greater the opportunity, Lin Che said, patting her shoulder. Trust me and trust Xinghe. Xing's light cluster pulsed in the isolation chamber, as if echoing his words. 10 minutes later, 20 modified ships suddenly burst out of the dark nebula and charged toward the Ghost Fleet's ring formation. The pulse cannon beams carved bright streaks across the dark, gray, starry sky. Though lacking power, they were enough to draw all attention. Enemy attack. Alarms blared through the Ghost Fleet's comm channels. Standing on the bridge of the flagship, Black Crow's silver mask reflected the cold light of the screens. A bunch of reckless scum, he sneered as he issued orders. Left wing, 4 ships engage. The rest maintain formation and watch for traps. For black ships immediately swung their cannons. Dark energy beams like scythes of death instantly blasted 2 modified ships into fragments. But the remaining 18 ships did not retreat. Instead, they accelerated their charge, attempting to tear through the defense line with suicidal collisions. While the Ghost Fleet's attention was fully drawn to the front, the Xinghe, leading 10 ships, stealthily circled around to the North Pole of the prison asteroid and silently slipped into the abandoned entrance of the geothermal power plant. The entrance passage was clogged with frozen pipes and collapsed rebar. The Xing's energy shield easily pushed aside obstacles as they advanced toward the planet's core. About half an hour later, a vast underground space opened before them. This was no power plant at all, but the Ghost Fleet's secret command center. Dozens of consoles surrounded a central energy pillar, its surface covered with complex circuits connecting to conduits leading to the surface. At the top, a red light flickered. It was the control core of the Annihilation Matrix. Found it, Su Qing exclaimed excitedly. But the next moment, lights blazed on around them, and dozens of auto turrets extended from the walls, their muzzles aiming at the Xinghe. Black Crow's voice came through the loudspeaker, laced with mocking laughter. Lin Che, you came. I thought I'd have to wait longer. Lin Che's heart sank. The screen showed the command center's doors closing. They were surrounded. You knew we were From the moment you started building your fleet at Haiyan Station, my informants relayed the news. Black Crow's voice carried smugness. A mongrel from the fringe sectors dares to challenge the Federation's authority. Today you'll be buried along with this planet. The red light on the control core began to flash rapidly, and the Annihilation Matrix's energy readings surged. Initiating self-destruct sequence. 10 minutes countdown. Black Crow's voice turned icy. Enjoy your final moments. The auto turrets opened fire, energy beams raining down on the Xing's shield like hail. Xing's light cluster fluctuated violently, and the shield's glow began to dim. Shield energy down to 40. Su Qing shouted anxiously. We can't break out. Lin Che looked at the central energy pillar, then at Xinghe in the isolation chamber. A bold idea struck him. Xinghe, can you hear me? He thought silently. Help me. Use your energy to reverse charge that energy pillar. Xing's consciousness conveyed confusion, but immediately responded. Pale golden energy flowed along the Xing's main gun conduit, converging at the muzzle aimed at the densest circuit node on the energy pillar. What are you going to do? Su Qing asked, puzzled. The Annihilation Matrix's energy is dead. Xing's energy is alive. Lin Che said, his eyes fixed on the energy readings. I'm going to make Xing's energy flow backward through the circuits, paralyze the entire matrix, and even detonate the Ghost Fleet's energy cores. It was an extremely risky maneuver. If it failed, Xing's energy would clash with the Annihilation Matrix's energy, and they would be reduced to ashes first. 5 minutes remaining. Black Crow's voice carried a cruel grin. Lin Che took a deep breath, resolve flashing in his eyes. Xinghe now. A beam of pale golden energy like a dragon shot out, and precisely struck the node on the energy pillar. Instantly, the entire command center erupted in blinding light. The circuits on the pillar began to smoke, and the red glow of the Annihilation Matrix rapidly dimmed, as if doused with cold water. More astonishingly, Xing's energy surged backward through the conduits, breaking through the surface and flooding into the Ghost Fleet capital ships moored around the prison asteroid. Alert! Energy core out of control. Main gun charging abnormally. It's going to explode. Cries of panic rang out one after another from the Ghost Fleet's comm channels. The 12 capital ships exploded one after another like firecrackers, turning the dark gray nebula a sinister crimson. Inside the command center, the auto turrets ceased fire. Black Crow's voice trembled with disbelief. Impossible. This is impossible. Lin Shay stared at the screen showing the Annihilation Matrix's energy readings at 0, and he smiled. Nothing is impossible, he said, switching to the public channel, his voice echoing across the entire abyss of silence. The Ghost Fleet is destroyed. The darkness of the abyss of silence ends now. The Xinghe broke through the closing doors and emerged from the underground command center. In the outer space, Zhao Lei's fleet was mopping up the remaining Ghost Fleet ships. When they saw the Xinghe emerge safely, everyone cheered. Standing before the viewport, Lin Shay looked at the black planet, gradually calming. He felt no ecstasy of victory, only a heavy sense of responsibility. He knew that destroying the Ghost Fleet was only the beginning. The eyes of the Federation's Supreme Council were still watching them from the darkness. But he no longer feared. Xing's light streamed through the viewport, illuminating his face, and also the path ahead for the Xinghe fleet. Next stop, the Core Star region. The smoke of the abyss of stillness had yet to fully dissipate, yet the bridge of the Xinghe was already seething. Zhao Lei directed the crew to clear the battlefield. Though 5 of the 30 retrofitted ships had been lost, the wreckage of the captured Ghost Fleet concealed enough weapons and components to double the fleet's size. Su Qing was busy tallying supplies. The ceaselessly flickering numbers on the holographic screen brought a broad smile to her face. 12 dark energy main cannons alone, and 3 heavily damaged capital ships that can serve as flagships after repairs. Lin Shay, however, stood by the viewport, gazing at the dark gray nebula that was slowly fading in the distance. That place had once been a hell where the Federation concealed its crimes. Though light had now been restored, he knew the real storm still lay ahead. The Core Star domain, the heart of Federation power, where the iron-fisted rule of the High Council prevailed, thousands of main fleets were stationed and countless darker secrets remained hidden. Zhao Lei, Lin Shay turned, his voice calm, yet carrying an undeniable authority. Let the fleet rest for 3 days in the abyss of stillness, repair the ships, and inventory the supplies. In 3 days we set out for the Core Star domain. The cheers on the bridge instantly ceased, everyone was stunned. Zhao Lei opened his mouth, his tone hesitant. Lin Shay, the Core Star domain is not like the border territories. Every inch of space there is under Federation surveillance. With our current strength going there is no different from walking into death. We aren't going there to die. Lin Shay interrupted, his gaze sweeping over the crew. We're going to tell the people there that the Federation's darkness can be shattered. The news of the Ghost Fleet's annihilation will soon reach the Core Star domain. Fear will spread like a plague, but some will see hope. Those oppressed by the Council, those dissatisfied fleet soldiers, those commoners yearning for change. They need a signal of resistance. Su Qing walked to his side, her eyes resolute. I support you. The Morning Sun Trading Company has many hidden contact points in the Core Star domain. Small merchants crushed by the Federation. They've long been waiting for someone to stand up. Xing's consciousness gently brushed Lin Chi's mind, carrying warmth and encouragement. The light cluster in the isolation cabin radiated a soft glow, casting a pale golden hue over the bridge, as if endorsing his decision. But Zhao Lei wanted to say more, but was cut off by the light in Lin Chi's eyes. It was a conviction and strength forged through countless life and death trials, reassuring and stirring the blood. No buts. Lin Che clenched his fist. From the Black Rock Station to the abyss of stillness, what brought us here was never strength, but courage. If even we dare not step into the Core Star domain, then the resistance in the border territories will forever be a joke. He walked to the holographic star map and tapped heavily at the center, the seat of the Federation Council, Alpha Star. Our first stop, the free port on the outskirts of Alpha Star. It's a gathering place for all sorts and the weakest point of Federation surveillance. There we will expose the truth of the Ghost Fleet's annihilation to the world. Make everyone know that the Council is not unshakable. 3 days later, the replenished Xinghe fleet set sail again. This time the fleet had expanded to 42. The 3 repaired Ghost Fleet capital ships were repainted. Pale golden energy patterns replaced the original matte black, gleaming brilliantly under the starlight. As the flagship, the Xinghe led the fleet in a warp jump toward the Core Star domain. Inside the warp tunnel, Lin Che stood on the bridge watching the constantly refreshing star map on the screen. From the border territories to the Core Star domain spanned a full 3,000 light-years, and every warp point could conceal a Federation patrol. One more warp and we'll reach the outer area of the free port, Su Qing said, pulling up the latest intelligence. According to messages from our contacts, the Federation has recently increased forces at the free port, apparently searching for someone. They're looking for us, Lin Che said without surprise. The news of the Ghost Fleet's destruction must have reached the Council. They won't sit idly by. Zhao Lei adjusted the fleet formation. I've ordered all ships to disable identification signals and disguise as ordinary merchant vessels. The free port's administrator is a money-grubbing fellow. As long as we grease his palms, he'll pretend not to see us. The final warp concluded, and the Xinghe fleet emerged into a bustling star region. Here the stars were 100 times brighter than in the border territories. Countless ships darted through the void like fireflies, and massive space stations floated like cities, their neon lights refracted into dreamlike hues amid the nebula. This was the core star domain, the symbol of Federation power and wealth. The free port orbited a white dwarf star, a gigantic ring-shaped space station bristling with docks and shops with vessels coming and going in a lively bustle. But Lin Shay keenly noticed that in the corners of the port several cruisers bearing the Federation military insignia were moored, and the patrol frequency was far higher than normal. They are indeed conducting strict inspections, Su Qing said, her voice slightly tense. Lin Shay, however, smiled. The stricter they are, the more it shows their guilty conscience. Notify the others to proceed according to plan. Sister Su, it's time to get your contacts ready. The Xinghe leading the fleet slowly entered the designated berthing area of the free port. As expected, Federation soldiers soon boarded for inspection. But with the forged identity Zhao Lei had prepared and the transit fee Su Qing slipped them, they only gave a perfunctory glance before waving the ships through. Late at night, in the most bustling bar of the free port, a motley crowd gathered. Smugglers, mercenaries, merchants, and more, drinking hard liquor and exchanging intelligence. Suddenly, all the holographic screens in the bar flickered on. The usual entertainment was replaced by a video footage of the Ghost Fleet capital ships exploding in the abyss of stillness, the audio recording of Black Crow's communications, and encrypted files from the Federation Council ordering the destruction of the Star Core. Every truth laid bare before all eyes. The entire bar fell into dead silence, then erupted into thunderous discussion. My God, the Ghost Fleet was really destroyed. The Council annihilated 3 stars just for the Star Core. Who is this Lin Shay? He dares to stand against the Council. A Federation patrol squad soon arrived, trying to shut down the screens, but it was too late. The video spread like a virus through the free port's network, and even through secret channels it reached every corner of the core star domain. On the bridge of the Xinghe, Lin Shay watched the ceaseless stream of message prompts on the screen, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Step 1 success. Su Qing's face radiated excitement. Our contacts report that many people are inquiring about us. A few minor warlords even expressed interest in joining. Just then the Spark issued an alert, detected large-scale energy reactions. It's the Federation's glorious fleet, jointly commanded by 3 5-star admirals. 200 capital ships are heading toward the free port. On the screen, a dense swarm of red dots appeared on the star map, forming a massive encirclement that locked the free port and the Xinghe fleet tightly in the center. They've finally gotten serious, Zhao Lei said, his expression grim. 200 capital ships. We can't stand. Lin Shay, however, remained unusually calm. He looked toward the isolation cabin where Xinghe rested, and a clear message flowed through his consciousness. Xinghe could sense that among the glorious fleet's soldiers many harbored dissatisfaction with the Council. Their energy waves carried hesitation and doubt. Not being able to stand doesn't mean we have to flee. Lin Shi's eyes gleamed with wisdom. Sister Su opened the public channel. I want to speak to the glorious fleet. Su Qing paused for a moment, then understood his intention and quickly operated the controls. The next second, the voice of the Xinghe echoed through the entire free port and into every ship of the glorious fleet. Soldiers of the glorious fleet, I am Lin Shay. You have come here to carry out the Council's orders, to eliminate us, the rebels. But before you act, I ask you to watch this video. See how the Council you have sworn to defend destroyed stars and slaughtered their own people for selfish desires. The video of the Ghost Fleet's annihilation played again, this time supplemented with more details decoded by Xinghe. The list of destroyed colony worlds, records of silenced informants, and even the accounts of Council members dividing the Star Core's energy. The encirclement of the glorious fleet came to a standstill. Lin Shi's voice continued, brimming with power. We are not rebels. We simply refuse to be the Council's puppets any longer. The people of the border territories have suffered enough oppression and lies. Today we stand here not for war, but for truth. Those willing to see the truth, lay down your arms. Those who prefer to remain puppets, come on then. The Xinghe fleet fears nothing. Suddenly the hull of the Xinghe burst forth with dazzling light. Pale golden energy patterns blazed like flames, and Xing's power surged through the conduits into the entire Xinghe fleet. All 42 ships illuminated simultaneously, forming a resplendent ribbon of light that stood in confrontation with the glorious fleet's encirclement. On the free port, countless people rushed to the decks, waving their arms and cheering for the Xinghe fleet. In the flagship's bridge of the glorious fleet, the 3 5-star admirals wore ashen expressions. They had not anticipated that Lin Shay would dare to openly incite their soldiers, nor that the video's content would cause such a stir. Many soldiers were already whispering among themselves, and some had even secretly deactivated main cannon charging. What do we do? One admiral asked. The lead admiral looked at the brilliant ribbon of light on the screen, then at the soldiers' doubts in the comm channels. Finally, he gritted his teeth. Withdraw. But the Council's orders, the admiral snorted. Let them explain the video's content first. The encirclement of 200 capital ships slowly dispersed, heading away from the free port. The bridge of the Xinghe fleet erupted in thunderous cheers. Lin Shay stood at the viewport watching the glorious fleet's departing silhouettes. He knew this was only a temporary calm, but he also knew the seed had been planted. The storm in the core star domain had only just begun, and he, along with the Xinghe fleet, would be the most ferocious force to stir it. The news of the Glory fleet's retreat struck the core star region like a spark dropped into boiling water, igniting a blaze of chaos. In the bars of Freeport, debates over Lin Shay and the Xinghe fleet raged through the night. On clandestine communication channels, spies from major families and factions frenziedly exchanged intelligence. Even within the closed-door meetings of the Federal Assembly, arguments never ceased. Some advocated for an immediate deployment of the entire fleet to flatten Freeport, while others insisted on first uncovering the truth behind the Ghost Fleet's annihilation to stabilize morale. On the bridge of the Xinghe, Lin Shay was reviewing the intelligence summary compiled by Su Qing. On the screen, names and markers flickered erratically. Some denoted neutral observers, others clear hostility, and a few small dots in green represented factions willing to engage in secret contact. The Hawk faction's counselors are the most aggressive. They've already allied 3 fleets stationed on the periphery of Alpha Star, vowing to purge the rebels. Su Qing pointed to the densest cluster of red dots on the star map. But the Duff faction has made a move. Their leader, former Federal Marshal Kyloan, has contacted us through a secret channel suggesting a meeting in the underground exchange on Alpha Star. Zhao Lei furrowed his brow. Kyloan, that marshal who was dismissed 10 years ago for opposing the Assembly's military expansion. Does he still hold any influence? Besides, Alpha Star is the Assembly's stronghold. Going there is no different from walking into a death trap. Precisely because it's their stronghold, it's the safest place. Lin Shay tapped lightly on the star map. The Assembly's attention is fixed on Freeport. They would never imagine we'd dare to penetrate deep into Alpha Star. As for Kyloan, anyone who could make the Assembly wary for a decade is no ordinary figure. He looked toward the isolation pod where Xinghe floated quietly, a luminous orb that had entered a semi-dormant state. Since releasing energy at Freeport, its energy fluctuations now steady and profound. Lin Shay could sense it was gathering strength, as if anticipating the coming battle. Prepare yourselves. Well, go alone. The 3 of us, Lin Shay made the decision. The Xinghe fleet will remain at Freeport under your command, Zhao Lei. If we lose contact, execute the backup plan immediately. 3 days later, a disguised civilian cargo vessel blending into a convoy of merchant ships bound for Alpha Star slowly entered the orbit of the planet that symbolized the Federal Assembly's authority. Alpha Star was even more magnificent and colder than Lin Shay had imagined. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds, aerial vehicles sped through transparent tubes, not a speck of litter marred the ground, and even the air was meticulously purified. Yet beneath this splendor lurked ubiquitous surveillance cameras and patrolling robots. Every face wore a cautious wariness, as if afraid to utter a wrong word. The people here live like marionettes, Su Qing murmured, gazing at the hurried crowd outside the window. The cargo ship landed at a private port on the outskirts where a waiting contact guided them into an inconspicuous ground vehicle. The contact was an elderly man with graying hair, once an adjutant to Marshal Kyloan. As he drove, he whispered, "The underground exchange is built in an abandoned subway tunnel, the only place on Alpha Star free from Assembly surveillance. But the situation is tense lately. We'll need to take a detour." The vehicle meandered through a labyrinth of underground passages for nearly an hour before stopping before a rusty. The old man entered a code, and the door slowly opened to reveal a vast, brightly lit space. More a hidden city than an exchange, with shops, bars, and information stations of every kind. People dressed in varied attire bustled about, their faces carrying a vibrancy starkly different from the surface. "I never imagined Alpha Star had a place like this," Zhao Lei marveled. "Where there is oppression, there is resistance," the old man chuckled, leading them through the crowd to a secluded bar. In a corner of the bar sat an elderly man in a gray trench coat, his hair silver, but his gaze sharp as an eagle's. Seeing Lin Shay and his companions enter, he rose slowly and extended his hand. "Mr. Lin Shay, I've long heard of you. I am Kyloan." Lin Shay shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm, marks of long years gripping a firearm. "You flatter me, Marshal." After they sat, Kyloan cut straight to the point. "I want beat around the bush. The Assembly has gone mad. To cover up the secrets of the Star Core, they are purging all who know the truth, even my former subordinates. If they keep this up, the Federation will be destroyed by their hands. So, Marshal, you wish to cooperate with us?" Lin Shay asked. "Not just cooperation." A steely resolve flashed in Kylan's eyes. "I want to overthrow this corrupt Assembly and rebuild the Federation's order. But I need your strength, the might of the Xinghe fleet, and the power of that Star Core." Su Qing's heart skipped a beat. "Marshal, you know about Xinghe." "I know more than you imagine," Kylan sighed. "I was one of the overseers of Project Spark back then. I saw the Assembly grow increasingly insane in their pursuit of weapon development, so I chose to withdraw. The Star Core is not just an energy source. It is the central evidence of the Assembly's crimes. If we can obtain it, we can expose them before the entire Federation." Lin Shay looked into Kylan's eyes, searching for any hint of deceit, but found only a heavy sense of respect. Xinghe is not a weapon, it is a life, Lin Shay said earnestly. I can help you overthrow the assembly, but Xing's will must be respected. Kylan paused for a moment, then nodded. Very well, I agree. Just then the bar door was kicked open and a squad of soldiers in black uniforms stormed in, led by the surviving commander of the Ghost Fleet, a twisted grin on his face. Old dog Kylan, and that rebel Lin Shay. Right where we expected. Capture them. The assembly has a reward. It's a trap. Zhao Lei shot to his feet, shielding Lin Shay, and Su Qing behind him. Kylan's face turned ashen. Impossible. My contact is absolutely trustworthy. Before he could finish, he saw the old man who had brought them in, holding a communicator, a sinister smile on his face. It's you. Kylan's eyes blazed with fury. Marshal, don't blame me. The old man's voice was icy. The assembly promised my family and me new identities. I had no choice. The soldiers were already charging laser beams, crisscrossing the bar. Lin Shay quickly pressed the communicator on his wrist. Spark, initiate the cargo vessel's self-destruct sequence to divert their attention. Received. Self-destruct, countdown 30 seconds. A thunderous roar came from outside and flames erupted from the port. The soldiers' attention was indeed diverted, their formation momentarily thrown into chaos. Moved. Lin Shay grabbed Su Qing, and with Kylan and Zhao Lei dashed toward the bar's back exit. The rear door led deeper into the subway tunnels, where darkness swallowed them, punctuated only by hurried footsteps and the shouts of soldiers behind. It's a dead end. Kylan's voice was laced with despair as he stared at the sealed tunnel ahead. But Lin Shay abruptly halted. He could feel Xing's consciousness resonating with the surrounding environment. Behind the tunnel wall there were traces of energy flow. Xinghe says there's a passage here. Lin Shay shouted, pulling out a high-frequency vibration rod and smashing it against the wall with all his might. Clang, clang, clang. The wall was indeed hollow. After a few blows it broke open to reveal a narrow maintenance shaft. Quick, get in. The four crawled into the shaft, and Lin Shay wedged the vibration rod into the opening to temporarily block the pursuers. The tunnel was pitch black, and they had to move forward, guided only by the faint glow of emergency lights. Kylan panted, consumed by self-reproach. I was too naive. I never imagined the assembly's claws had reached this far. This is no time for guilt, Lin Shay said calmly. We must leave Alpha Star as soon as possible, or once the assembly's main fleet arrives, we'll be completely trapped. Zhao Lei pulled up a star map from his device. There should be an abandoned freight rail ahead that leads to a waste processing plant on the city's edge. From there we might find a means of escape. The four pressed on, and the pursuers seemed delayed by something and hadn't caught up yet. Lin Shay knew this was only a temporary lull. Alpha Star was under full lockdown. They were like fish in a barrel, seconds from capture at any moment. Just then Xing's consciousness surged with unusual intensity, and a clear map materialized in Lin Shay's mind. A map of Alpha Star's underground network. Somehow Xinghe had infiltrated the Federation's database through an unknown method. This way, Lin Shay changed course, heading toward a more concealed pipe. Xinghe found a secret route to the spaceport. Kylan and Zhao Lei exchanged a glance, surprise and hope flickering in both their eyes. They followed Lin Shay, weaving through the dark conduits. Xing's consciousness guided them like a beacon, steering them clear of all surveillance and patrols. When they finally emerged from the pipes, they found themselves in the cargo area of the spaceport, where the eastern sky was already tinged with a pale dawn. A small passenger ship was undergoing final maintenance, clearly preparing for departure. That's it. Zhao Lei's eyes lit up, and he dashed toward it. The pilot, startled by their approach, reached for the alarm, but Zhao Lei pinned him down. If you want to live, get us off Alpha Star, otherwise. The pilot, seeing the gun at Zhao Lei's waist, nodded frantically. All right, it'll take you. The four boarded swiftly. As the ship rose and pierced Alpha Star's atmosphere, Lin Shay looked back at the planet. Magnificent and cold, gleaming with a hypocritical light in the dawn. We will return, Lin Shay said softly, his voice resolute. Kylan looked at him, hope rekindling in his eyes. Yes, we will return. The ship leaped toward Freeport, leaving behind an Alpha Star seething with undercurrents. Lin Shay knew that although the journey to Alpha Star had been perilous, it was not without gain. At the very least, they had witnessed the assembly's madness and secured Kylan's unwavering allegiance. And Xing's extraordinary ability, displayed at the critical moment, gave him hope of overthrowing the assembly. The storm over the core star region was drawing ever closer. The jump engine of the small passenger ship let out a strained hum, the star chart outside the porthole flashing by in distorted streaks. Lin Shay leaned against the cabin wall, fingertips brushing his forehead. The mark of the auxiliary core there was growing warm, and Xing's stream of consciousness flowed through his mind like a warm stream. It's repairing the ship's engine, Lin Shay murmured, a glint of surprise in his eyes. The ancient engine of the passenger ship had been on the verge of failure, but now, nourished by Xing's energy, the fault lights on the instrument panel went out one by one, and the output power even exceeded factory specifications. Kalen leaned over to take a look, a storm of shock rising in his hazy eyes, a living star core. No Xing's energy can actually achieve this level. This goes beyond energy supply, it's more like a resonance of life. He had once been the overseer of the Spark project and knew the essence of a star core better than anyone. It was a pure aggregate of energy, wild and chaotic, requiring precise devices to constrain. But the repair and perception that Xinghe displayed clearly carried the unique wisdom of life. It's a Su Qing suddenly spoke, pointing at the pale golden film condensing on the porthole. Look, it can even actively adapt to the external environment using an energy membrane to filter the radiation in the jump channel. Lin Qi's heart stirred. From initial energy supply to guiding the dark matter engine, and now to actively repairing machinery and sensing danger, Xing's abilities seemed to grow with each experience. Like a seed gradually taking root and sprouting in the wind and rain, blossoming into unexpected vitality. The tremor of the jump's end pulled everyone back to reality. The ship docked steadily at a hidden pier in Freeport. As Zhao Lei opened the hatch, he saw a group of familiar figures rushing over. The core members of the Xinghe fleet, anxiety etched on every face. "Captain, you're back." The communications technician's voice trembled with excitement. The Glory fleet pulled out, but the Council sent the Inquisitors. Yesterday they bombed 3 of our contact points in Freeport. The Inquisitors? Kalen's face turned grim. That's the Council's direct special forces, all equipped with phantom mecha combat power equivalent to a small fleet. Their commander is the Council Chairman's personal guard captain, a man known as Mad Dog Rex. Lin Qi's gaze swept over the crowd, noticing that several familiar faces were missing. Zhao Lei explained in a low voice, "The brothers on watch duty didn't make it out in time." The air was thick with suppressed anger. Freeport's bustling prosperity continued, but the temporary base of the Xinghe fleet was shrouded in grief and rage. Lin Qiu stood on a makeshift platform, looking down at the faces below, young and weathered. Scavengers from the border star zones, deserters from the Federation, fleet-oppressed merchants, even former prisoners rescued from the dead abyss. "I know you're angry, you're grieving." Lin Qi's voice rang out through the speakers across the camp, clear and firm. "The Inquisitors bombed our contact points and killed our comrades. They think this will intimidate us, we'll hide like rats and wait to be wiped out one by one." He raised his hand, abruptly pointing to the Xinghe moored in the harbor. Pale golden energy veins flowed in the sunlight, like a slumbering dragon slowly opening its eyes. "But they're wrong." Lin Qi's voice soared. "From Blackstone Station to the dead abyss, from Freeport to Alpha Star, we've fought every step of the way. What carried us through was never luck, but mutual trust and the determination to protect our home. So what if the Inquisitors come? So what if the Council's fleet arrives?" His gaze was like a blade cutting through every pair of eyes. "We have the Xinghe, we have each other, and we have hearts that refuse to yield. Today I, Lin Qiu, swear here." He slammed his fist against his chest. "Until the corrupt Council is overthrown and the Federation is restored to clarity, I will not retreat one step. Those willing to walk this path with me, raise your hands." In an instant, a thunderous response shook Freeport. Countless hands shot up, rough, slender, scarred. Each arm bore the same conviction. "Well, follow the captain to the death. Smash the Council. Avenge our fallen brothers." Standing behind the crowd, Kalen watched the young, yet steady figure on the dais, tears glistening in his hazy eyes. He had spent a lifetime in military service and witnessed countless oaths, but never before had he felt such a tremor in the depths of his soul. This was not blind fanaticism, but hope kindled from despair, the cry of the oppressed for freedom. "This kid, Lin Qiu," Kalen muttered to himself, the corners of his mouth slowly lifting into an old but powerful smile. "He's far stronger than I was back then." That night, in the maintenance bay of the Xinghe, a special ceremony was taking place. Lin Qiu pressed his palm against the isolation chamber wall of Xinghe. Kalen took out a small metal container holding a core data chip extracted from the wreckage of the Phantom fleet under the Spark project. "This is the backup I secretly made back then. All the evidence of the Council's history, tampering, and forbidden weapon development," Kalen said, handing the chip to Lin Qiu. "Can Xinghe absorb this information?" Lin Qiu didn't speak. He focused on sensing Xing's consciousness flow. After a moment, he nodded. "It says yes. These data contain the Federation's developmental history, which will help its evolution." The chip was placed into the energy interface of the isolation chamber. The next second, the pale golden light mass roiled violently. The chip dissolved into radiance, turning into countless data streams devoured by Xinghe. All the instruments in the maintenance bay lit up at once, holographic screens frantically refreshing with code. The Federation's century-old secrets, from the truth of the Swarm War to the corrupt dealings of the Council's high echelons to the real reason the Spark project was sealed away. When the last piece of data was absorbed, Xing's light mass suddenly contracted, then burst forth with unprecedented brilliance. Pale golden energy surged out of the isolation chamber, like a tide spreading along the Xing's circuits to the entire fleet. The gun barrels of 42 ships lit up simultaneously, engines humming in low resonance, as if infused with new souls. Xinghe energy level increased by 300. New ability star network unlocked. The Spark's voice carried unprecedented excitement. Enables real-time sharing of energy and information among all fleet ships, forming an integrated combat network. Battle effectiveness increased at least 5-fold. Lin Shay gazed at the view outside the porthole. Every ship of the Xinghe fleet was wrapped in a pale golden energy membrane connected by slender light threads like a giant star network slowly unfurling in Freeport's night sky. This is Xing's response. Su Qing said, her voice choked with emotion. Lin Shay clenched his fists, his eyes burning with the light of victory. He knew that Xing's evolution was not an end, but a beginning. The moment the star network expanded, the Xinghe fleet was no longer a rabble of scattered sand, but an armored torrent powerful enough to shake the foundations of the Federation. Spread the word, Lin Shay said, turning to walk toward the bridge. Tomorrow at dawn, the entire Xinghe fleet will assemble. Target, Alpha Star. This time we're not going for a secret meeting. We're going to knock on the council's door. Kalen watched Lin Shi's retreating back, slowly straightening his stooped spine, as if once again becoming the commanding federal marshal of old. He adjusted his collar and followed with a deep voice, "Wait for me, kid. When it comes to knocking on doors, this old man has more experience than you." In the night-shrouded Freeport, the light of the Xinghe pierced the darkness, illuminating countless eyes full of hope. A storm that would sweep across the entire Federation was about to officially unfold over Alpha Star. The morning Freeport was enveloped in a pale golden halo. The 42 ships of the Xinghe fleet hovered in the starry void, tightly linked by the star net, woven from Xinghe's energy. Pale golden threads of light flowed between the vessels like pulsing veins. Lin Shay stood on the bridge of the Xinghe, watching the tactical data constantly refreshing on the holographic screen. After the star net was activated, every ship's vision firepower and energy reserves were shared in real time, forming an organic whole. The 3 modified Ghost Fleet ships at the forefront acted as vanguard to breach the defenses. The 15 civilian modified ships on the flanks formed the wings, using their agility to pin down the enemy. The remaining ships concentrated their fire to protect the Xinghe and the command ship carrying Kai Luan. Marshal Kai Luan, have the Parliament's defensive deployments been confirmed? Lin Shay asked. Kai Luan's figure appeared on the communication screen. He wore a brand new marshal's uniform, his gaze as sharp as ever. Confirmed. There are 3 defensive lines around Alpha Star. The first is the Iron Wall defense belt, composed of 50 cruisers equipped with heavy particle cannons. The second is the Hive minefield, filled with automatically tracking anti-ship mines. The third is the Parliament's ultimate weapon, the Heavenly Screen, said to be able to cover the entire Alpha Star with defensive power comparable to the gravitational field of a small star. Su Qing brought up a 3-dimensional model of the defenses, her brows slightly furrowed. The energy source of the Heavenly Screen is the geothermal reactor at the core of Alpha Star. If we can't destroy it, we won't be able to get anywhere near the Parliament building. Lin Shi's gaze fell on the energy flow of the star net, the pale golden threads rising and falling in rhythm with Xinghe's pulse. He says it can sense the energy frequency of the geothermal reactor. As long as we get close enough, we can use the star net's energy counterflow to temporarily paralyze the Heavenly Screen. Then let's act according to the plan. Kai Lun's voice carried resolve. I'll lead the vanguard ships to break through the iron wall, and you take the opportunity to cross the Hive minefield and head straight for the geothermal reactor. Remember, the Parliament's main fleet is on its way. We only have 2 hours. The engines of the Xinghe emitted a low roar, and a stream of pale golden energy surged from the ship's stern. The entire Xinghe fleet, like a giant golden bird spreading its wings, made a jump toward Alpha Star. When the jump ended, the outline of the iron wall defense belt was already clearly visible. 50 cruisers were arranged in a ring formation, their muzzles glinting with cold red light. The energy readings of the heavy particle cannons kept climbing in the star net's shared vision. Vanguard ships left echelon. Kai Lun's command transmitted through the star net to the entire fleet. The 3 modified ships instantly accelerated, a pale golden energy shield condensing into a sharp triangle in front of their hulls like 3 daggers charging toward the weak point of the cruiser's ring formation. Fire! The commander of the defense belt roared the order. 50 red particle beams simultaneously shot toward the vanguard ships, but were blocked by the combined shield woven by the star net. The pale golden shield fluctuated violently, but never broke. The star net had concentrated the energy of the 3 ships, boosting their defensive power several-fold. Now, Kai Luan roared and pressed the launch button. The main cannons of the vanguard ships thundered simultaneously, and the blue-green energy beams converged under the star net's guidance into a thick pillar of light, precisely hitting the weak point of the ring formation. The shields of 2 cruisers instantly collapsed, their hulls blasted with huge holes, and a gap appeared in the ring formation. All forces charge, Lin Che ordered. The Xinghe fleet surged into the gap like a tide, the star net's light, threads nimbly leaping between ships, constantly adjusting the formation. The civilian-modified ships, using their small size, wove between the cruisers, their pulse cannons precisely striking the enemy's engine compartments. The vanguard ships braved the fire to open a path for the following vessels. The formation of the Iron Wall defense belt instantly fell into chaos. The cruiser commander was horrified to find that the enemy seemed to possess foresight. Their fire always avoided the strongest defensive positions, and their charges always found the weaknesses in the formation. How can they be so coordinated? The commander's roar echoed in the communication channel. The answer lay in the star net's shared vision. Lin Che could see the status of every allied ship. Su Qing could calculate the optimal attack angles in real time, and even the most ordinary crew member could know through the star net which ship they should cover. Within less than half an hour, the Iron Wall defense belt collapsed entirely. Passing through the defense belt, a region filled with metal asteroids appeared ahead, the Hive minefield. Countless fist-sized mines floated in the void, their surface sensors blinking red light like dormant venomous wasps. Xinghe, can you locate the detonation mechanism of the mines? Lin Che asked. Xinghe's stream of consciousness returned an affirmative response. The star net's light threads suddenly became fine and dense, like an invisible net enveloping the entire minefield. Pale golden energy seeped into the mines along the light threads, and the blinking red lights went out instantly. They're all disabled. Su Qing called out in surprise. The Xinghe fleet crossed the minefield without a scratch, and the silhouette of Erfa star finally appeared before them. The pale blue planet was covered by a transparent energy shield. That was the heavenly screen. Sunlight refracted into colorful halos on the shield's surface, seemingly beautiful, yet containing the power of destruction. 500 kilometers to the geothermal reactor. Kai Lun's voice carried gravity. The Parliament's ground defense forces have already deployed. Mad Dog REXS Inquisitor Mecha is down there. Lin Che watched the flowing energy patterns on the heavenly screen, which gradually aligned with the frequency of the geothermal reactor, sensed by Xinghe. He prepare the energy counterflow. All ships charge main cannons, target the heavenly screen. Xinghe's light orb pulsed violently in the isolation chamber, and pale golden energy converged through the star net to the main cannon muzzle of the Xinghe. The blue-green energy beam intertwined with the pale golden star net energy, forming a dazzling pillar of light. Now, the pillar of light shot toward the heavenly screen like a sword. At the moment of contact, the energy patterns of the heavenly screen suddenly became chaotic, and a huge crack appeared on the transparent shield. Success! The Xinghe fleet rushed through the crack into the heavenly screen, diving toward the surface of Erfa Star. On the ground, countless anti-aircraft fire shot into the sky. The black figures of Inquisitor mechas flashed among the ruins of the city. REXS roar came through the public channel. Lin Che, you can't escape. The Parliament chairman has already activated the final purification program. The entire Erfa Star will be buried with you. Final purification. Kai Lun's face changed drastically. That's the Parliament's last resort. It will detonate the geothermal reactor and completely destroy the planet. Lin Che's gaze fell on the constantly approaching coordinates of the geothermal reactor on the screen, a glint of determination flashing in his eyes. Sister Su, take me to the reactor. Marshal Kai Lun, please keep Rex occupied. Be careful. Su Qing maneuvered the Xinghe, dodging the dense anti-aircraft fire, and dove toward the geothermal station in the city center. The hull of the Xinghe scraped the tops of skyscrapers, and the pale golden energy shield shattered countless glass curtain walls. Lin Che could see on the ground that Kai Lun's command ship was locked in fierce battle with dozens of Inquisitor mechas, blue-green energy beams interweaving with black mecha fire illuminating half the sky. The outline of the geothermal station grew clearer. A metal structure extending deep underground, with its cooling tower at the top continuously supplying energy to the heavenly screen. The Xinghe landed steadily in front of the cooling tower. Lin Che put on his spacesuit, grabbed the high-frequency vibration rod, and rushed out. Inside the underground passage, it was filled with automatic machine guns and laser barriers. Relying on the star net's early warning, Lin Che nimbly dodged the attacks. Xinghe's energy seeped through the mark on his palm, forming a small shield in front of him. Finally, he reached the control room of the geothermal reactor. The massive reactor was shaking violently, and the countdown on the screen showed that there were 10 minutes left until final purification. In the center of the control room stood an old man in a white robe, the Federal Parliament chairman, a mad smile on his face. Lin Che, you've finally come. Unfortunately, it's too late. Lin Che raised the vibration rod, his eyes icy. Stop the program. Stop it, the chairman sneered. The Federation is my life's work. No one can destroy it. You want to overthrow me? Then be buried with this planet. He slammed a red button, and the reactor's shaking grew more violent, the countdown on the screen accelerating. Without hesitation, Lin Shay inserted the vibration rod into the reactor's energy interface and pressed his palm against the control panel, channeling Xing He's energy into it. The pale golden energy clashed fiercely with the reactor's geothermal energy, and the control room erupted in blinding light. Lin Shay could feel Xing He's stream of consciousness battling the reactor's program. Each energy impact felt like his brain was being torn apart. 1 minute left, the chairman laughed madly. Lin Shay gritted his teeth. The auxiliary core mark on his forehead and the spark core in his palm lit up simultaneously, synchronizing perfectly with Xing He's stream of consciousness. The pale golden energy suddenly erupted, flooding the reactor's control panel like a tidal wave. The countdown on the screen abruptly stopped at 003. No. The chairman let out a despairing roar. The reactor's shaking gradually subsided, and the final purification program was successfully terminated. Lin Shay collapsed to the ground, drenched in sweat. He looked up and saw Xing He's light orb through the porthole of the Xing He, casting a warm glow on the wall of the control room. Cheers of victory came from outside. Kai Lun's voice rang through the communicator. Lin Shay Rex has been taken care of. The Parliament building is ours. The Federation is free. Lin Shay smiled like a child. He walked out of the control room, and sunlight streamed through the hole in the geothermal station, falling upon him. In the sky of Alpha Star, the ships of the Xing He fleet were arranged in neat formation. The pale golden star net shimmered in the sunlight like a great protective net. Kai Lun walked up to him and patted him on the shoulder. Good job, kid. Lin Shay looked into the distance. In the bridge of the Xing He, Su Qing was waving at him, her smile brighter than the sun. He knew that overthrowing the Parliament was only the beginning. The road to rebuilding the Federation was long. But he was no longer alone. He had Xing He, Su Qing, Kai Lun, and countless others willing to follow him. Xing He's radiance bloomed over Alpha Star like seeds of hope scattered to every corner of the Federation. The legend of the Xing He fleet had only just begun a new chapter. The smoke of battle gradually dissipated over Alpha Star, and the first rays of dawn streamed through the cracks in the heavenly shield, casting light upon the scarred Parliament building. The ships of the Xing He fleet hovered in perfect formation above the city. A pale golden energy membrane like a gentle barrier covered the damaged areas, and the restorative power of Xing He slowly soothed the wounds of war. Lin Shay stood atop the Parliament building with cheering crowds below. Marshal Karen had just delivered a speech through the public channel exposing the crimes of the Parliament chairman and the truth behind the final purification plan, throwing the entire Federation into a fervor. The once taboo project sparked the concealed truth of the Zerg or the corrupt dealings of the high-ranking Parliament officials. All secrets were laid bare under the sun. They're calling you the new Federation leader, Su Qing said, walking over to him and handing him a cup of warm water, a smile in her eyes. Lin Shay took the cup, gazing at the people below waving the banners of the Xing He fleet, and gently shook his head. I'm not a leader. I just want to restore the Federation to what it should be. So what do you plan to do? Su Qing asked. Marshal Karen suggested convening a full Federation Congress immediately to elect a new governing system, but many old guard powers are waiting on the sidelines, and some are even secretly contacting the remnants of the old Parliament. Lin Shay looked towards the distant geothermal station under reconstruction. The energy of Xing He was flowing through pipelines into the planet's core, stabilizing the geological structure of Alpha Star. Rebuilding is harder than overthrowing, he said softly. What we need to do isn't to replace the old Parliament, but to build a system where everyone has a voice, where the outer rim and the core worlds are equal, where civilians and nobles share the same rights, and where the military exists solely to protect the Federation, not as a private weapon for certain individuals. Just then Karen hurried over, her expression grave. Lin Shay, we have a problem. We found an encrypted file in the underground vault of the Parliament building. It's about the Zerg hive mind. Zerg hive mind. Lin Shay's heart sank. The original intention of Project Spark was to combat the Zerg. Although the Federation had won the war back, then the whereabouts of the hive mind had always been a mystery. The Parliament had publicly claimed it was completely destroyed. The three of them arrived at the underground vault, which held the Parliament's most classified secrets. Karen projected a holographic file into the air. The image showed a pitch-black starfield where countless glowing eggs floated like stars. At the center was a massive, writhing biological mass, the Zerg hive mind itself. According to the file, the war didn't destroy the hive mind. It was only sealed in the abyssal domain beyond. Karen said, her voice heavy. The Parliament had been secretly studying the hive mind's genes, trying to create controllable Zerg weapons. This caused the seal to weaken, and the hive mind is awakening. Su Qing's face turned pale instantly. No wonder. No wonder the Parliament was frantically searching for star cores. They wanted to use Xing's energy to re-strengthen the seal, or to control the hive mind. Lin Shay stared at the writhing hive mind on the screen. The consciousness stream of Xing He suddenly became restless, transmitting a powerful sense of crisis. He could feel that the hive mind emanated an energy diametrically opposed to Xing He, cold, greedy, and filled with a desire for destruction. Where is the abyssal domain beyond? Lin Shay asked. Karen pulled up a star map, pointing to an unknown starfield beyond the Federation's borders. It's at the edge of the universe. Space is extremely unstable there, even warp jumps can't reach it. The research teams the Parliament sent never returned. But we have to go, Lin Shay said, his gaze resolute. If the hive mind truly awakens, not just the Federation, but the entire galaxy will be devoured. He recalled the records in the auxiliary core. The energy core of the Zerg hive mind shared the same origin as Xinghe. Both were products of the early universe. But one represented life and creation, while the other represented destruction and devouring. Perhaps only Xinghe could completely destroy the hive mind. But the Federation isn't stable yet. We can't leave, Karen said worriedly. The remnants of the old Parliament are still active in the shadows. Many planetary governors are paying lip service. If we leave, the order we've worked so hard to establish might collapse. Lin Shay pondered for a moment, then looked at Su Qing and Karen. Marshal Karen, please oversee the Federation's reconstruction. Convene the Congress and return power to the people. Sister Su, you are responsible for integrating the Xinghe fleet and the resources of the Outer Rim to establish a new defense system. And you? They both asked simultaneously. I'm taking the Xinghe to the abyssal domain beyond, Lin Shay said, his voice calm, but carrying an undeniable force. Xing's energy might find a way to counter the hive mind. And this might also be the purpose of Xing's existence. The light cluster of Xinghe pulsed gently within its isolation chamber, as if responding to his decision. The following month, the Federation entered a busy period of reconstruction. Under Karen's leadership, the All-Federation Congress was successfully convened. Representatives from the Outer Rim and Core Worlds jointly drafted a new constitution. Su Qing integrated the Xinghe fleet and the willing remnants of the old Federation military, establishing a defense network that covered the entire Federation. Meanwhile, Lin Shay made his final preparations aboard the Xinghe. He uploaded all the data on the Zerg from the auxiliary core into Xing's database. Xing's energy resonated strangely with this information, and the patterns on the ship's hull shifted to a frequency that countered the Zerg genetic chain. On the night before departure, a grand farewell ceremony was held in Alpha Star's central square. People held up images of Xinghe to see off the ship. Karen and Su Qing stood at the dock watching Lin Shay board the Xinghe. You must come back, Su Qing said, her voice choked with emotion. Lin Shay smiled and nodded. Once I've dealt with the hive mind, I'll be back for your victory toast. Karen patted him on the shoulder, his eyes full of expectation. Go on, kid. The future of the Federation, the future of the galaxy, is in your hands. The Xinghe slowly ascended, its pale golden energy stream cutting through the night sky as it warped towards the abyssal domain beyond. Lin Shay stood at the viewport, watching Alpha Star shrink into the distance, his heart filled with strength. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with the unknown and danger, and the darkness of the abyssal domain beyond might be beyond imagination. Yet he felt no fear, for he was not fighting alone. The light of Xinghe flickered beside him. Behind him was the reborn Federation and countless people yearning for peace. The warp engines of the Xinghe emitted a low hum, carrying hope and courage towards that unknown darkness. The legend of Lin Shay and the Xinghe continued. And this time what they had to protect was the light of the entire galaxy. The darkness of the abyssal outer realm was a void that could devour even starlight. The windows of the Xinghe were set to maximum brightness, yet they could only illuminate a few kilometers ahead. There were no stars, no planets. Only black meteorites floating in the void, their surfaces coated in a viscous dark matter, like coagulated blood. Space stability is below 30. The jump drive cannot be activated. Huzhong's voice was laced with electronic static, and the spatial curvature graph on the screen resembled a chaotic electrocardiogram, detecting an unknown energy field interfering with the ship's sensors. Lin Shay gripped the control stick tightly. The energy shield of the Xinghe rippled with faint golden light, resisting the erosion of the dark matter. He could clearly feel that Xing's consciousness stream had become unusually active. The light orb in the isolation chamber pulsed violently, as if responding to some distant call. What is it sensing? Lin Shay asked in his mind. Xing's consciousness stream surged into his mind, bringing a blurry image, an endless gray nebula with a constantly rotating vortex at its center. Deep within the vortex, countless glowing eggs writhed faintly. It's the direction of the hive. Lin Shi's pupils contracted. How far? Based on Xing's perception, about 50 light years. Huzhong's voice carried a heavy tone. But the space in this region is distorted, the actual distance could be much greater. And suddenly a string of red alerts flashed on the screen. Countless green dots emerged from the shadows of the black meteorites. Their forms resembled giant mantises covered in black carapaces with scythe-like forelimbs glinting with metallic luster. It's the vanguard of the insectoids, predators. Lin Shi's heart tightened. The auxiliary core's database recorded that these insectoids fed on dark matter, moved with incredible speed, and could easily tear through a ship's armor. The predator swarm surged toward the Xinghe like a black tide. Their trajectories defied physics as if they could phase through distorted space at will. Xinghe maximized the energy shield. Lin Che roared as he pressed the main cannon button. A blue-green energy beam shot from the cannon, but upon impact with a predator it refracted. The dark matter twisted both light and energy trajectories. Useless. Sweat beaded on Lin Chi's forehead as he watched a predator rush toward the bridge, its scythe-like forelimb poised to strike. In that critical moment, Xing's light orb suddenly erupted with blinding radiance. Pale golden energy flowed along the ship's hull, forming a massive energy field around the Xinghe. The charging predators collided with the energy field, their bodies melting like ice and snow, emitting piercing shrieks. Xing's energy can counter them. Lin Che was both startled and elated. Xing's consciousness stream conveyed clear information. The carapaces of these predators contained dark energy homologous to the hive, and Xing's life energy was its natural nemesis. Switch the main cannon to Xinghe energy mode, Lin Che commanded. The gun barrels of the Xinghe glowed with pale golden light, and a slender energy beam shot toward the predator swarm. The beam did not destroy them directly, but spread like a virus through the swarm, dissolving the black carapaces and exposing the green flesh beneath. It's working. Under Lin Chi's control, the Xinghe darted through the swarm like a golden lightning bolt in the darkness. The pale golden energy beams reaped the predators' lives like a scythe of death. But more predators poured from the meteor shadows, seemingly endless. This isn't sustainable. Lin Che watched the dwindling energy reserves on the screen. Xinghe, can you locate their nest? Xing's light orb fluctuated violently, and its consciousness stream pointed toward a massive cluster of black meteorites on the left. The energy field there was chaotic with faint signs of life activity. Charge through. The Xinghe abruptly turned, smashing through several blocking predators, and surged toward the meteorite cluster. At the center of the cluster there was indeed a massive cavern. Deep within, green light flickered and countless eggs clung to the walls, slowly incubating. Their breeding ground. Without hesitation, Lin Che channeled all of Xing's energy into the main cannon. A thick golden beam shot into the depth of the cavern, instantly engulfing every egg. A deafening crack echoed, and the entire meteorite cluster began to collapse. Green ichor mixed with dark matter oozed out, emitting a pungent odor. Deprived of their breeding ground, the remaining predators darted about aimlessly like headless flies, soon cleared. The Xinghe docked on a relatively stable meteorite. Lin Che looked at Xinghe in the isolation chamber. The light orb was noticeably dimmer than before. The battle had consumed a massive amount of its energy. Thank you for your hard work. Lin Che extended his hand and gently pressed it against the chamber wall. Xing's consciousness stream returned a warm response, as if saying it's okay. Just then the Xing's communicator suddenly emitted a strange static, a low rhythmic murmur like some creature's whisper or the sound of space tearing. What is that? Lin Che frowned. Huozhong amplified and analyzed the static, revealing a vague audio waveform on the screen. It's a low-frequency sound wave. The source is the gray nebula that Xinghe perceived. The waveform was laced with fragmented information, not words, but pure consciousness fragments, destruction, devouring rebirth, and a deep-seated pain and rage. It's the hive's voice. Lin Chi's expression turned grim. It's calling and also wailing. Xing's light orb suddenly trembled violently, and the isolation chamber's energy wall rippled. Lin Che could sense that Xing's consciousness stream resonated strongly with that low-frequency sound wave, as if two homologous beings were conversing across time and space. They are of the same origin. A storm raged in Lin Chi's heart. The auxiliary cores database suddenly refreshed on its own, revealing a long-buried record. The initial concept of the Huozhong project originated from the study of the universe's primordial energy. At the edge of the abyssal outer realm, we discovered two opposing, yet homologous energy entities. One representing creation and life, the star core, the other destruction and consumption, the hive core. They are like the yin and yang of the universe, maintaining a delicate balance. Lin Che finally understood. Xinghe and the insectoid hive were born of the same root, yet had taken divergent paths. The hive's destructive urge might not be innate, but the result of some external force distorting it. Xinghe, can you understand its whispers? Lin Che asked in his mind. Xing's consciousness stream became complex, carrying sympathy, vigilance, and a hint of a desire for redemption. It says it has been polluted. Lin Che relayed in a low voice. Long, long ago, a dark force from beyond the abyss invaded its core, causing it to lose control, endlessly devouring and reproducing. A dark force from beyond the abyss. Lin Chi's heart pounded. This meant that the threat to the galaxy might not be limited to the insectoid hive alone. Suddenly, the Xing's sensors detected an immensely powerful energy reaction from the direction of the Gray Nebula. That energy was 100 times stronger than what had been sensed before, carrying an aura of world-ending destruction. The hive seems to have been provoked. Lin Che tightened his grip on the control stick. It's moving toward us. Xing's light orb reignited, this time with unprecedented determination in its glow. Lin Shay could feel that it was ready. Whether for redemption or destruction, it would face its own brother of the same origin. The Xinghe slowly started heading toward the gray nebula. The darkness of the abyssal outer realm remained heavy, but the light of Xinghe, like an unquenchable spark, illuminated the path ahead. Lin Shay knew that the true trial was about to begin. The gray nebula was more uncanny than imagined. Viscous gray gas writhed like living organisms with flickering green specks embedded within. These were insectoid spores that would swiftly parasitize and multiply upon contact with any life form. Ghostly green trails continuously scraped across the energy shield of the Xinghe. Xing's consciousness remained vigilant, neutralizing the spore's erosion with pale golden energy. 10 light-years remaining to the hive nest's core. The spark's voice carried a tense undertone, detecting high-intensity psychic waves attempting to infiltrate the ship's systems. Lin Shi's temples throbbed incessantly. Chaotic images flashed through his mind. Shattered planets, burning fleets, countless lives wailing under the insectoid's fangs. These visions were not memories, but psychic waves emitted by the hive nest seeking to shatter his will with terror. Xinghe blocked its psychic waves. Xing's orb flickered intensely. Pale golden energy surged into Lin Shi's brain through the neural link, dispersing the chaotic images like mist before sunlight. The instruments on the bridge normalized screens, once again displaying clear energy readings. "It's afraid," Lin Shay suddenly stated with conviction. "It uses fear to mask its weakness." Xing's consciousness conveyed agreement. The hive nest's psychic waves, though seemingly violent, were in fact chaotic, the instinctive struggle of a creature in agony. The Xinghe pressed deeper into the nebula. The insectoid swarms grew denser. These were no longer mere predators, but combat insectoids of varied forms. Some resembling massive tanks with carapaces thick enough to withstand main cannon fire, others winged, spewing corrosive mucus, still others small, but capable of spatial teleportation, targeting the ship's weak points. "Activate stellar network mode," Lin Shay commanded. Though only the Xinghe was present, Xing's energy simulated the network's effect, weaving flexible defensive threads of pale gold around the hull. Facing the charging swarm, the Xinghe transformed at times into a sharp lance, tearing through the insectoid formation with its main cannon, at other times into a steadfast shield, deflecting all attacks with its energy barrier. Lin Shi's maneuvers grew increasingly fluid. His resonance with Xinghe reached unprecedented heights. Xinghe could anticipate his tactical intentions, adjusting energy output in advance. He in turn could sense Xing's condition, retreating timely before energy was depleted. One human, one vessel, like comrades fighting shoulder to shoulder, carved a bloody path through the When the last combat insectoid was blasted into fragments by the main cannon, the gray gas ahead suddenly parted, revealing a colossal entity beyond imagination, the insectoid hive nest. It resembled a hollowed planet, its surface riddled with writhing blood vessels and caverns where countless eggs gestated. At its core pulsed a massive luminescent orb-green light, flowing through vessel-like tissues like the hive's heart. But within that glow lurked discordant black streaks, spreading like a virus through the core. "That's the corruption," Lin Shay pointed at the black streaks, his heart tightening involuntarily. The aura was cold, deathly antithetical to Xing's life energy, even more sinister than dark matter. The hive nest seemed to sense their arrival. The green light at its core flickered violently as countless massive tentacles shot out from the cavern, striking toward the Xinghe, their barbs gleaming with toxic green. Xinghe focus energy. The Xing's main cannon gathered a dazzling golden radiance. This time, instead of attacking directly, it compressed the energy into a razor-thin beam precisely aimed at the black streaks at the hive's core. The instant the beam struck the hive nest let out a deafening roar, shaking the entire nebula. The black streaks contracted as if scorched, emitting a sizzling sound. The green light at the core briefly flared brighter, as if in celebration. "It's working." Su Qing's voice suddenly came through the communicator, laced with surprise and tears. Lin Shay froze. "Sister Su, how did you?" General Kailuan broke through the nebula perimeter with the fleet. Su Qing's face appeared on the comm screen, the background a fierce battlefield. "We received your energy signal and knew you needed backup." The screen switched to an external view. 42 ships of the Xinghe fleet were locked in battle with the outer swarms. Kailan's command vessel led the charge, its main cannon's blue light illuminating the gray nebula like a beacon. "How did you get in?" Lin Shay asked, both astonished and overjoyed. "It was Xing's energy guidance." Kailan's voice came breathless. "It left an energy trail through the nebula. We followed it here." Lin Shay looked toward the isolation chamber where Xinghe resided. Its orb pulsed gently as if smiling at him. While fighting, it had also been paving the way for reinforcements. "All units hear my command." Lin Shi's voice transmitted through the fleet. "Concentrate fire on the black streaks at the hive nest's core. That's its weak point." The Xinghe fleet's cannons ignited simultaneously. Blue-green energy beams converged with the Xing's golden light, like countless swords piercing the black streaks at the hive's core. The hive nest shrieked in agony, its tentacles lashing wildly at the fleet. But without the black streak's augmentation, its attacks became sluggish and erratic. The black streaks within the green light faded. The hive's core began to contract violently, as if resisting something. "It's fighting the corruption," Lin Shay exclaimed excitedly. Just as the black streaks were about to be completely purged, the hive's core burst with blinding green light. A vast torrent of consciousness flooded Lin Shi's mind, the hive nest's memories. In those memories, it had once been like Xinghe, an energy entity born at the universe's dawn, gentle and peaceful, nurturing primordial life. Until eons ago, a dark force from beyond the cosmos invaded. To protect the life it had fostered, it annihilated itself together with the darkness, but residual dark essence corrupted it, turning it into an avatar of destruction. It has been waiting, Lin Shay said, his eyes moistening, waiting for someone to free it from the corruption. Xing's orb drifted to the edge of the isolation chamber, as if yearning to touch the hive's core. Lin Shay understood its intent instantly. "No." Su Qing's voice cracked with tears. "That will drain all your energy." Xing's consciousness conveyed a warmth laced with finality. It said this was their destiny. Born of the same source, they should return together. Lin Shay closed his eyes, tears trickling down. Slowly he raised his hand and unlocked the isolation chamber's energy seal. The pale golden orb shot out of the Xinghe like an arrow racing toward the hive's core. At the moment of contact, gold and green intertwined, forming a pillar of light that pierced the nebula. The black streaks writhed in agony, dissipating within the light pillar. The green light at the hive's core grew purer, brighter. "Farewell, Xinghe," Lin Shay whispered. The pillar blazed for 10 full minutes. When the light faded, the hive nest's body began dissolving into specks of green light, like fireflies dispersing into the void. The gray nebula turned translucent, revealing the brilliant star river beyond. In the isolation chamber of the Xinghe, only a faint layer of golden dust remained. Lin Shay stood before the chamber, reaching out. The golden dust, as if alive, settled onto his palm, coalescing into a tiny imprint that merged with the spark core at his palm. "It hasn't left," Lin Shay said, feeling the warmth in his hand, tears falling again. "It's just with us." The ships of the Xinghe fleet formed up in silent formation, all eyes fixed on this scene, paying tribute to the life that had saved the galaxy. Kailuan walked to Lin Shi's side, gazing at the dissipating nebula. "It fulfilled its mission," she said, her voice heavy with reverence. Lin Shay nodded, looking out at the star river. The starlight had never seemed so bright, as if cheering for the newborn universe. "It's time for us to go home." The Xinghe adjusted its course, leading the fleet toward the Federation. Though Xing's physical form was gone, its energy imprint remained within Lin Shay, in every component of the Xinghe, and in the hearts of all who witnessed this. Its existence proved that even an avatar of destruction could find redemption, even fates destined for opposition could choose coexistence. And Lin Shay knew his mission was not over. He would carry Xing's while safeguarding this galaxy that had just escaped peril, ensuring that life and peace would endure forever. Their legend would echo through the stars for eternity. 3 months after the Xinghe fleet's return, an encrypted communication from the Federal United Council arrived at the Xinghe. An anomalous energy pulse had been detected by a monitoring station in the Rift Star sector at the edge of the universe. Its frequency matched that of the Xinghe and the Zerg hive, yet carried a more ancient and complex oscillation. The Rift Star sector. Lin Shay stood before the holographic star map, his fingertips tracing the star domain marked as unknown. That was the limit of the Federation's territory, a region where space was perpetually torn, making it impossible for even the most advanced warp drives to enter stably. Only a few unmanned probe ships had ever sent back blurry images, floating fragments of continents, crystallized nebulae, and massive, unrecognizable architectural ruins. Su Qing pulled up the waveform of the energy pulse, her brow furrowed. Marshal Kailan said this pulse appeared once a century ago. The old council thought it was the aftermath of a supernova and didn't investigate further. But now it seems it's homologous to the Xinghe and the hive, yet doesn't belong to any known civilization. Lin Shay took over the golden mark on his palm, warming slightly. The consciousness stream of the Xinghe surged in his mind, no longer a gentle resonance but a primal vigilance, as if sensing a familiar kin, yet fraught with unknown danger. By then the Xinghe domain had been initially established. 5,000 residents had built agricultural zones, energy stations, and a small shipyard. Uncle Zhang led a team of veteran technicians repairing warships salvaged from the Ghost Fleet. Little Star could now independently pilot a modified patrol boat, cruising along the sector's edge every day. Lin Shay should have stayed to watch this new home grow slowly, but the pulse from the Rift Star sector, like an invisible thread, compelled him to go. "I have to go see it." Lin Shay made his decision, his gaze sweeping over the bridge crew. Zhao Lei had grown into a captain capable of standing on his own, commanding the main force of the Xinghe fleet to establish a new defense network at the Federation border. Su Qing's Energy Research Institute had just achieved a breakthrough in miniaturizing Xinghe energy, providing longer-lasting power for probe ships. Too dangerous. Su Qing objected. The space turbulence in the Rift Star sector can tear apart warship armor. We know nothing about the environment there, let alone what lies behind that pulse. Precisely because it's unknown we must go. Lin Shay pointed at the waveform of the energy pulse. Look at the oscillation cycle here. It's like a plea for help. The Xingha's consciousness stream suddenly sharpened, and a fragment of broken images flooded Lin Shay's mind in pitch-black space. Countless glowing threads bound a massive crystal. The crystal's surface was covered in cracks, constantly emitting weak pulses, while within those threads flowed energy that was homologous to the dark power that had polluted the hive, yet more condensed. It's being bound. Lin Shay's voice grew heavy. Just like the Xingha was once imprisoned in the military factory. Marshal Kylan's communication came in at that moment. The old man's face was grave. The United Council has voted to approve your exploration request. We'll dispatch 3 newly modified Pioneer-class probe ships to support you. But remember, once you encounter danger beyond your control, withdraw immediately. The Federation needs you, and the Xingha domain needs you. I understand. Lin Shay nodded. Before departure, Lin Shay boarded the Xingha's maintenance bay alone. The isolation chamber was long empty, but the air still held a faint trace of golden energy particles. He extended his hand, and the mark on his palm resonated with the ship's hull patterns. The Xingha's engines emitted a low hum, as if responding. Are you ready? Lin Shay asked softly, as if speaking to the Xingha. The pale golden energy patterns on the hull flowed faster, and the Xingha's consciousness stream carried a resolute reply. Whether the path ahead led to salvation or danger, it would accompany him. 3 days later, the Xingha, leading 3 Pioneer-class probe ships, departed the Xingha domain and warped toward the Rift Star sector. The warp passage was more chaotic than expected. The Xingha's energy shield was constantly battered by spatial debris, producing grating screeches. The Pioneer-class probe ships relied on the Xingha's energy guidance to barely maintain formation. When the fleet finally emerged from the warp passage, the sight before them made everyone gasp. The Rift Star sector resembled a shattered kaleidoscope. Floating continental fragments were covered in silver-white crystals, refracting the light of distant quasars. Crystallized nebulae like giant jellyfish slowly extended their tendrils. At the center of the sector hung an unimaginable ring-shaped structure tens of thousands of kilometers in diameter. Its ring wall was engraved with patterns similar to the Xingha's energy markings, yet more ancient and complex. The anomalous energy pulse came precisely from the center of the ring structure. Scanning reveals a strong energy reaction inside the ring structure, matching the pulse source. At the same time, weak dark energy fluctuations are detected, homologous to the pollution energy of the hive core, but at least 100 times more intense. Lin Shay's gaze locked onto the center of the ring structure. There seemed to be a massive shadow writhing, with countless silver-white threads extending from the ring wall, penetrating into the shadow, as if drawing energy or sealing it. Xingha, can you sense what's inside? The Xingha's consciousness stream became extremely chaotic. Fear, anger, and an indescribable sadness. The images it conveyed were even more fragmented. Countless luminous energy bodies were born and grew within the ring structure, then fell and were destroyed under the erosion of dark energy. The shadow bound by the threads seemed to be the aggregation of all fallen energy, yet still retained a glimmer of primordial light. A guardian. Lin Shay murmured, a bold conjecture forming in his mind. Perhaps this was the birthplace of primordial energy entities like the Xingha and the hive in the early universe. That shadow is a guardian corrupted by darkness, and the ring structure is the prison built to seal it. At that moment, the ring structure suddenly illuminated. The engravings on the ring wall came alive, shooting countless beams of light that wove into a giant net across the sector. The energy systems of the Xingha and the probe ships instantly malfunctioned, the engines died, and they began falling toward the ring structure. The energy is being drained. Su Qing's panicked voice came through the communicator. Her probe ship was closest to the ring structure and had already been ensnared by the light net, with the hull's surface beginning to crystallize. Lin Shay watched the approaching ring structure, and the golden mark on his palm suddenly burst into dazzling light. The Xingha's energy surged through the mark into the Xingha's main cannon. This time it was no longer blue-green or pale gold, but a pure white light, like a newborn star. Everyone brace yourselves. Lin Shay roared as he pressed the launch button. Xingha, together with me, tear it open. The white beam struck the light net. At the moment of contact, the entire Rift Star sector trembled violently. The engravings on the ring structure emitted a piercing screech, and a huge rift appeared in the light net. The shadow bound at the center, seemingly stimulated, let out a deafening roar, and dark energy surged like a tidal wave toward the rift. It wants to escape. Lin Shay didn't retreat. He piloted the Xingha into the rift, flying toward the center of the ring structure. He knew that here lay the secrets of the universe's primordial energy, the origins of the Xingha and the hive, and a threat far more terrifying than the Zerg hive. Cracks began to appear on the Xingha's hull under the erosion of dark energy, but the pale golden energy patterns grew brighter, as if fiercely resisting the darkness. In Lin Shao's mind, the Xingha's consciousness stream merged completely, with his will carrying an unwavering determination. As they neared the center of the ring structure, the massive shadow finally revealed its full form. A sphere formed by countless twisted energies, its surface constantly emerging with agonized faces. At the very core of the sphere there was a faint white light, like a candle flickering in the wind, yet never extinguished. That's it. A glint flashed in Lin Shao's eyes. He maneuvered the Xingha, breaking through the dark energy barriers, flying toward that white light. The golden mark on his palm resonated fiercely with the white light. The vibrations of the ring structure grew more intense, as if it were about to collapse. Just as the Xingha was about to touch the white light, the shadow suddenly unleashed its final dark energy, a black beam shooting toward the Xingha's bridge. Instinctively, Lin Shao extended his hand to shield himself. The golden mark on his palm collided with the black beam, erupting in a light that illuminated the entire Rift Star sector. In that light, he seemed to witness the moment of the universe's birth, the primordial essence of the Xingha and the Hive, and how the guardians of the ring structure fought against the dark power. When the light faded, the Xingha floated quietly at the center of the ring structure. The shadow had vanished. The white light merged into the Xingha's energy core. The tremors of the ring structure gradually subsided, and the engravings on the ring wall dimmed once more. But Lin Shao knew that nothing was over. He looked out the porthole. The space turbulence in the Rift Star sector seemed to have intensified. At the end of the star track in the distance, a patch of deeper darkness that had never been recorded appeared, emanating an energy fluctuation far more powerful and more frigid than the previous pulse. "We seem to have opened something we shouldn't have," Lin Shao said softly, and for the first time the golden mark on his palm conveyed the emotion of fear. From the Xingha's communicator came Marshal Kylan's anxious voice. "Lin Shao, the Federation border has detected a massive dark energy invasion spreading from the Rift Star sector." Lin Shao gripped the control stick. The Xingha's engines restarted, and within the pale golden energy stream a faint white light was mingled. "Notify everyone, prepare for battle." His voice was calm, but carried unprecedented gravity. "The Rift Star sector is just the beginning. The real enemy awaits us at the end of the star track." The Xingha turned course, heading back toward the Federation. Behind them, the ring structure of the Rift Star sector slowly closed, but it could not stop that deep darkness from devouring the starlight along the star track bit by bit. Lin Shao knew they had just ended one battle, yet stood at the threshold of another far greater storm. And this time, they might face the darkness of the entire universe. When the Xingha burst out of the fissure sector, the flames of war had already ignited along the Federation's border. The once brilliant star trails were severed by an ever-expanding band of darkness. Countless Federation patrol ships struggled at the edge of the dark band. The moment their hulls touched the dark energy, they corroded into black wrecks without even a chance to send a distress signal. What was more unsettling were the twisted shadows constantly surging out of the dark band. They had no fixed form, but could easily penetrate a warship's energy shield and devour the life within. "Those are shadow eroders," came Marshal Karen's voice through the encrypted communication, laced with undisguised exhaustion. "They feed on energy and life. Ordinary weapons are useless against them. Only Xingha energy can barely hold them off. Our defense line has retreated 3 times. If this continues, the dark band will reach Alpha Star within a week." Lin Shao stared at the casualty data flickering on the screen. The golden mark on his palm burned with alarming. Xing's consciousness stream surged wildly in his mind, transmitting vivid images. The core of the shadow eroders harbored dark energy of the same origin as the shadow in the fissure sector, yet more primal and savage, like a beast awakened from slumber by some force. "How is the Xingha domain?" Lin Shao asked, his voice hoarse. There were 5,000 residents, Uncle Zhang Shaoxing, and countless others who had just begun a new life. "We activated the Xingha energy barrier ahead of schedule." Su Qing's figure appeared on the communication screen. Her white lab coat was stained and dark circles heavily shadowed her eyes. "Temporarily safe, but the barrier's energy consumption is 3 times faster than anticipated. It can only hold out for 5 days at most." The screen switched to a view of the Xingha domain. A pale golden energy dome enveloped the colony. Countless shadow eroders crashed against the dome's surface, producing a sizzling sound of dissolution, but the dome's glow was already visibly dimming. Shaoxing piloted a patrol craft cruising back and forth inside the barrier. The pulse cannon on the craft fired golden beams, barely clearing the smaller shadow eroders that seeped through the gaps. "Evacuate everyone to the range covered by the Xingha," Lin Shao decided on the spot. The Xing's energy core absorbed the white light from the fissure sector. It might be able to sustain a stronger barrier. As he spoke, the Xingha suddenly shuddered violently. Wisps of white light emerged within the pale golden patterns on the hull, spreading like veins. Lin Shao could sense that Xing's consciousness had become unprecedentedly powerful, as if a slumbering behemoth had finally opened its eyes. "Is it evolving?" Su Qing's eyes widened in astonishment. Xing's energy wave instantly expanded, forming a golden domain 100 kilometers in diameter, enveloping several Federation warships that were barely holding on. The shadow eroders that rushed into the golden domain turned to ash the moment they touched the golden light, leaving not even a trace. This is Xing's purification domain. Marshal Karen's voice carried excitement. It can annihilate the dark energy of the shadow eroders directly. Lin Shay did not relax. He could see deep within the dark band a shadow 100 times larger than any shadow eroder slowly writhing. That was the true source of the threat. Xing's consciousness sent a powerful warning. That was the Shadow Mother, the origin of all shadow eroders. Its energy intensity rivaled that of a fully powered Zerg hive. Su Jie have the Institute analyze the Shadow Mother's energy frequency immediately. Lin Shay roared as he pressed the main cannon button. Xinghe concentrate energy and hit the Shadow Mother. The Xing's main cannon gathered a beam of gold-white intertwined energy, like a meteor cutting through the darkness, striking the massive shadow precisely. A violent explosion illuminated the dark band. The Shadow Mother let out a soundless roar, and a golden wound appeared on its colossal body. But the wound was quickly repaired by the surrounding dark energy. The Shadow Mother's form grew more solid, and the surrounding shadow eroders surged toward the Xinghe like a tidal wave. No good. It can absorb dark energy to heal rapidly. Su Qing's voice was anxious. Our energy is draining too fast, we can't hold out much longer. Lin Shi's eyes swept across the star chart and suddenly landed on the border between the Federation and the glass civilization. There lay a vast vein of glass crystal whose property was to conduct and amplify mental power and energy. Marshal Karen, can you coordinate the glass civilization's fleet to assist us? Lin Shay asked. Karen paused, then understood. You want to use the glass crystal vein to amplify Xing's purification domain. Feasible. But the Glass Star's defense fleet has suffered heavy losses, I'm afraid. Well, go. A crisp voice suddenly came through the communicator. It was Xiao Xing. I just learned from an old miner in the Xinghe domain that deep inside the glass crystal vein, there is a natural energy node. If we inject Xinghe energy there, it will trigger a chain reaction, turning the entire vein into a massive purification device. That's too dangerous. Su Qing immediately objected. The vein is occupied by shadow eroders. You can't even get near the energy node. I can. Xiao Xing's voice was exceptionally resolute. My patrol craft has been specially modified to absorb Xinghe energy and disguise itself as shadow eroder fluctuations. Brother Lin Shay, trust me. Lin Shay looked at Xiao Xing's stubborn face on the screen, then at the rapidly declining energy readings of the Xinghe. He knew this was the only way. He took a deep breath. Xiao Xing, remember, no matter what happens, protecting yourself is the most important thing. Xinghe will provide energy cover for you. Understood. Xiao Xing's patrol craft shot out like an arrow from a bow, heading straight for the glass crystal. A strand of Xing's consciousness split off and attached itself to the patrol craft, merging its energy fluctuation perfectly with the shadow eroders like a drop of water blending into a school of fish. It smoothly passed through the shadow eroders' blockade. The Xinghe turned and launched a fierce assault on the Shadow Mother. Gold-white energy beams hammered the Shadow Mother continuously. Though they couldn't destroy it completely, they successfully drew its attention, buying time for Xiao Xing. 5 minutes to the energy node. Xiao Xing's voice was breathless. There are too many shadow eroders in the vein. The patrol craft's disguise is failing. Lin Qi's heart was in his throat. He could see cracks in the patrol craft's energy shield. The pale golden glow stood out sharply in the darkness, and countless shadow eroders were converging on it. Xinghe energy sharing. The energy patterns on the Xinghe suddenly blazed. A golden thread of light spanned tens of thousands of light years, connecting precisely to the patrol craft. The patrol craft's shield instantly repaired, its speed doubled. Like a golden meteor, it broke through the last line of shadow eroders and plunged into the depths of the glass crystal vein. Reached the energy node. Ready to inject energy. Xiao Xing connected the patrol craft's energy core to the vein's node. The gold-white energy of Xinghe surged along the light thread. The glass crystal vein, like a lit fuse, began to ripple, with layers of golden light from the node outward. Success! Su Qing's cheer echoed through the communicator. Wherever the golden ripples passed, shadow eroders melted like snow, and the dark energy was purified into harmless particles. The Shadow Mother let out a painful howl. Its massive body began to disintegrate, and the dark band retreated. Just then the glass crystal around the patrol craft burst with blinding silver light. Xiao Xing's startled cry came. No. The vein is overloading. Lin Qi's pupils contracted. He could see the glass crystal at the energy node crystallizing tightly, encasing the patrol craft. Xing's energy thread was being compressed and was on the verge of snapping. Xiao Xing, evacuate immediately. Too late. Xiao Xing's voice was choked with tears, yet eerily calm. Brother Lin Shay's sister Su Qing, tell Uncle Zhang I didn't disgrace the Xinghe. She abruptly cut the energy link and poured all the patrol craft's energy into the node. The glass crystal vein erupted with unprecedented radiance. The golden purification domain instantly covered half the Federation border. The Shadow Mother's form dissipated completely, and the dark band receded like a retreating tide. But that small patrol craft along with its pilot remained forever in the place where the light was brightest. The bridge of the Xinghe fell into dead silence. Lin Shay stared at the gradually calming battlefield on the screen. The golden mark on his palm throbbed with sharp pain. It was Xinghe weeping. Su Qing's tears slid silently down her cheeks. Marshal Karen's figure remained silent on the communication screen with the background showing Federation soldiers cheering victory, yet no one could smile. The darkness had retreated, but the cost was heavy. Lin Shay slowly stood up and looked out the viewport at the star trails that had become brilliant again. He knew this was not the end. The appearance of the Shadow Mother, the disturbances in the fissure sector, all pointed to an even greater darkness awakening in the depths of the universe. In the Xing's energy core, the white light absorbed from the fissure sector grew ever brighter, intertwining with the pale golden energy to form a stable spiral. Xing's consciousness stream poured into Lin Shi's mind with unprecedented determination. "We still have a long way to go," Lin Shay whispered, his voice hoarse but strong. He piloted the Xinghe toward the Xinghe domain. Their people were waiting for them, a home to protect and countless unfinished missions. And at the edge of the universe, in a darkness deeper than the fissure sector, a pair of invisible eyes slowly opened, gazing toward the Federation with a cold, predatory gleam.